Chapter 1143. I don't care who the other party is. I just can't take this lying down. Mrs. Lin dragged her right hand that was wrapped in a bandage. Her eyes were blurred with tears, but her arrogance did not diminish at all. She came to our Lin family to shoot people. I must make her regret bullying people like this. Old Master Lin was so infuriated by his daughter-in-law's ignorance that he only wanted to sneer. Then go ahead and sue her. Lin Feng, divorce this woman right now. If you don't even think about staying in the Lin family anymore. Mrs. Lin did not expect to end up like this. How could old Master Lin let Lin Feng divorce her? It was such a small matter. Moreover, she was the one who was injured. Shouldn't he help her? Mrs. Lin was not convinced. She turned to look at Lin Feng. You won't divorce me, right? Fengzi, we have been husband and wife for so many years. Now that I am the one who is being shot, can't I vent my anger? Vent your anger? Lin Feng threw the hat in his hand. How else do you want to vent your anger? It's fine if you usually step on the low and bully the high in the courtyard, but why do you even bully a child? Now, you have provoked someone you shouldn't have provoked. You even said that no matter who the other party is, you can't take this lying down. How can you be so capable? Are you really not afraid of anything? Then let me tell you, who is the one who came looking for the Lin family today? It's Hellion Wei Wei, who you're bent on making connections with. After hearing the words Hellion Vivian, Mrs. Lin, who had been noisy just now, was completely dumbfounded. She froze on the spot in a daze. She could not believe what she had heard. The little country bumpkin's mother was Hellion Vivian? How was that possible? How was that possible? Mrs. Lin was no stranger to the name Hellion Vivian. The madam of the Ju Wei group, the legendary woman she had always wanted to know. However, the mistake was that she had never seen her before. She did not know that Hellion Vivian actually had a daughter. Mrs. Lin reached out and grabbed Lin Feng's sleeve. Unfortunately, Lin Feng did not want to hear what she was saying. In fact, even if Hellion Vivian hadn't come, old Master Lin wouldn't have let Madam Lin off so easily. Just because she dared to go to the Bai family like that, it was only a matter of time before old Master Lin stopped wanting such a daughter-in-law. That night, old Master Lin personally went to the Bai family. As usual, he lowered himself even more. Others might not understand, but only he knew that without the old chief's support, he could only go back to his hometown and feed the pigs. The Lin family was in a good position now, but they couldn't forget what they had done for them just because they were in a good position. This was the foundation of being a person. The two people who had opinions about the Bai family also had their own ways of dealing with them. They had not been in the military compound for long. Only then did they know that the Bai, Xiao, and Li families had joined forces. This time, I've brought down all the people who could be brought down. That vicious woman from the Lin family won't be back for a while. Even Uncle Lin has been sent to the provincial city to reflect on himself. This is good for the Lin family. It also saves that woman from causing any more trouble. Now, our courtyard belle is crying and asking for her mother. Bai Zhen, tell me, how are you going to thank me? I'll let you copy my English homework, but there's one thing. You have to learn your spoken language yourself, Bai Zhen said as he picked up little Baldy who had washed her face and put her back on the sofa. When Li Hailu saw little Aju, he wanted to tease her, but it was obvious that little Aju was not the same as before. What's wrong with the child? Why don't you eat? Bai Zhen's hand also paused. He saw little Baldy leaning against the window and looking outside again. He did not know what the child was looking at, but he always had an illusion in his heart that little Aju's strange behavior was related to the little boy he had seen before. However, after investigating for a long time, he could not find any clues. This made Bai Zhen very concerned. This concern did not subside even after the summer vacation had passed and he started school. Master Bai usually did not do things out of line. Bringing the child to school was probably the most rebellious thing he had ever done. However, he was really worried about leaving little Aju in the courtyard, so he could only bring her with him. Fortunately, the school had also informed him. Mother Xiao was also the principal. In addition, Bai Zhen had always been a good student. He had basically learned all the elementary school knowledge. The books he was reading now were not even understood by some junior high school students. Therefore, little Ajiu following Baijan to school would not affect Baijan's studies. However, arranging for a child to enter the classroom like this would attract the attention of others. Little Baldy was afraid that Baijan would be in a difficult position, so she immediately said that she could wait for her little brother outside. Baijan did not agree at first, but he could not bear the child's insistence. Outside the classroom was a corridor. It was clean and beautiful. When Baijan was in class, little Baldy sat by Baijan's window and preached to the little ants that came and went. Occasionally, she would recite scriptures. Little Baldy always remembered that she was going to be the abbot in the future, so she could not betray her Buddha. On the other hand, the teachers who came to class had never seen such an obedient child. They could not help but look in little Baldy's direction. When it was time for class, Baijan would carry little Ajiu into the classroom and put her in his seat. Coincidentally, little gangster Lee was sitting at the same table as him. Little gangster Lee finally understood what it was like to not want a brother when you have a sister. Ever since little Ajiu came, he could not sleep in class or after class. Baijan, who was obsessed with his sister, would kick him when he did not see little Ajiu for a while. Now, his grades had increased, and he was even called to the office by the teacher for questioning, asking if he had copied during the exam. Seriously. He also had times when he wrote his own questions. Was it good? Little gangster Lee stuffed a mouthful of sandwich into his mouth gloomily. When he turned around, Baijan was feeding little Ajiu yogurt with a small spoon. That gentle look made all the girls in the class want to scream. Anyway, Baijan had been receiving more and more love letters recently. Little gangster Lee looked at him with resentment. Why didn't any girl realize how good he was? Little Ajiu ate very happily. She ate one mouthful after another while playing with the little Rubik's cube that Baijan had handed to her. Baijan smiled and wiped the child's mouth. Wait for another class. We'll be home soon. Little brother, don't worry about me. I'll be obedient. Little Baldy said seriously, but her big head was a little itchy. She stretched out her little claws and scratched again and again. Chapter 1144. What's wrong? Baijan watched from the side, but the child had heat rash because it was too hot outside. Without thinking, little Baldy lowered his head and showed him. My hair has grown out. I need to use a hairbrush. Baijan was stunned. It was not that there was only a layer of fur on that little bald head. Keep it first. I'll cut it for you in the future. Although he said that, Baijan had long known that little Baldy was a girl. How could he really raise the child to be a manly girl? Although little Baldy always subconsciously grew in that direction, young Master Bai still had a plan to raise the child. His heart was clear. Little Baldy also gradually realized that he was not the same as other little boys. He was similar to those fragrant girls. Everyone in the class liked little Ajiu very much, especially the English teacher who taught Baijan. In the past, Baijan had even said that this English teacher had grammatical mistakes. One had to know how embarrassing this was. She felt that she was not facing a primary school student at all, but a university professor. Ever since little Ajiu came, there was one time when Baijan was so happy to see his sister that he did not even care about her. Moreover, little Baldy was indeed obedient. He was only 4 years old, but he never made a fuss. There was always a little white cat lying on top of his head. Usually, when he sat outside the classroom, he did not forget to help the cleaning auntie pick up the plastic water bottles on the ground. He was very familiar with the school's employees. However, there was one thing. No matter where little Baldy was, with a word from Baijan, he would run back. Ever since he brought little Ajiu along, Baijan, who had never eaten snacks, would always stuff a lot of things in his pocket to prevent little Baldy from getting hungry. Little Ajiu could eat, and this had not changed until now. Her pink and tender cheeks were pouted like a little squirrel. It was almost winter. Little Ajiu was a little taller, but it was only a little taller. It was basically negligible. Compared to Baijan, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. For the entire December, Lord Bai had been thinking about what clothes to buy for the child. In the end, he still bought her a red panda down jacket. It did not have a tail or ears, but little Aju was too cute. Even without these things, she could still sway around and give people the feeling of a beautiful little raccoon. Just like that, she was held by Baizhan's hand. The rate of people turning their heads was always exceptionally high. Everyone in the school wanted to talk to Baizhan, especially those girls. In the past, with Class Beauty Lin around, it was not easy for them to make a move. Now that they heard that Class Beauty Lin and Baizhan had a grudge, they all felt a little moved. Don't underestimate a primary school student's first awakening of love. A fifth grader already knows what a love letter is. She also knew that it would be more effective to make a move on Aju, so she came to her shyly. "What kind of girls do you like?" Little Baldy frowned. He didn't know what kind of girl little brother liked, but little brother had said that bad food was a blessing. Thus, little Baldy answered seriously, "Yes, I can." The girls were speechless. Master Bai's aesthetic sense was really strange. However, it had to be said that after little Baldy's answer, many male students realized that their desk mates no longer complained about losing weight. They ate what they wanted and grew taller. As the campus bell, Yuan Ting Ting was the last one to look for little Baldy. Behind her were a few girls who were dressed in a Western style. They were commonly known as followers. "You're Baizhan's sister? Then give this letter to him and tell him that I'm waiting for him in the school's boulevard." Yuan Ting Ting didn't know where she learned this from. Probably because she watched too many idol dramas, she felt that the more individualistic a girl was, the more attention she would attract boys with high standards. Therefore, she didn't even care about her manners. She stuffed a letter to little Baldy and left with her followers. Only a confident and generous girl like her could make Baizhan look at her differently. In fact, when little Baldy was waiting for Baizhan with a lot of food, Baizhan didn't even look at the letter. He directly tore the letter into pieces and threw it all into the trash can. Little Baldy brought the message to him. Master Li exclaimed from the side, "Not bad, Master Bai. Even the thorniest rose beauty in our school has taken a fancy to you. Go away. Don't say such things in front of Aju in the future." Baizhan bent down and picked little Baldy up. His slender fingertips wiped her lips. "It's too cold outside now. Do you want to sit in the classroom with me?" Little Baldy's cheeks were still puffed up. She chewed the biscuit that Baizhan fed her and shook her head. "I'll disturb others if I go in. It's not cold outside. When I was in the temple, I often ran around in a pair of pants. I've never caught a cold." "That's right. Little Aju is like a little King Kong. What are you worried about?" Master Li threw his school bag and carried it on his shoulder. "Brother, are you really not going to meet her?" Baizhan's cold eyes swept over him. "Who said I was going to take Aju to buy clothes today?" Okay. Little Aju is the boss. I'll call Xiao Lin now. Tell him why he insists on not being in the same class as me." "Why is that?" Li Hailu spoke with a Beijing accent. As he nagged, he was full of puzzlement. Little Baldy looked at him seriously and said, "Brother Xiao Lin is afraid that you will lower his average IQ." Master Li was speechless. Could they still have a good chat? For big boys, carrying a little girl on the street would definitely attract attention. In fact, little Baldy did not accept the fact that she was a girl. She felt that the little brother and the others must have made a mistake. However, her Buddha had said that she must allow other people's values to exist. Since the little brother liked her so much, then it was good that she was a girl. This did not affect her determination to be the abbot of the temple in the future at all. Although there had been girls looking for her in school recently, she had never had any thoughts about it. She was still very loyal to Buddha Wuli. While shopping, little Baldy saw the advertisement on the screen again. This time, Baizhan clearly sensed that her obsession with Bailey Shangxie was very unusual. Under any circumstances, Aju had never let go of his hand. Except when she saw the person on the screen. That kind of feeling was not very good. After all, she was a child he raised. Why did she spend more time looking at others than looking at him? This kind of thing had never happened before. Baizhan's eyes darkened, but he did not say anything. He held little Baldy's hand and entered the mall. Every time they went out, they would go shopping. Bags of all sizes were basically filled with little Aju's clothes. Little Aju changed into new pajamas that day. After taking a shower, she handed a big hairbrush to Baizhan. Then, she pouted her little body and revealed her head. "Little brother, I've been waiting for many days, but you haven't shaved my head. I've observed it. You must have forgotten." Chapter 1145. For the first time, Master Bai, who was awe-inspiring in the courtyard, felt a little speechless. After all, he had dragged it on for so long. He always thought that the child had long forgotten about shaving her head. Why was little Aju still thinking about it? Of course, Baizhan did not want the child to become a little monk again. It was not easy for him to grow a little furry hair, so how could he cut it for her again? One had to know that he had spent a lot of effort to make her stop insisting that she was a boy. Now, if he shaved her head again, the child would become a complete tomboy. Although little Aju's boyfriend power was often off the charts, Master Bai still did not want the child to be in any danger. Of course, his child had to be cherished in the palm of his hand. Master Bai's 3 views probably did not matter. Just this kind of stubbornness in her youth, Baizhan would not allow little Aju to shave her head bald again. But who was Master Bai? He was first-rate at coaxing children. He would definitely not say it directly. Therefore, Baizhan looked at the extremely cute little panda in front of him. He reached out and hugged the little girl in his arms. He gently patted little Aju's back. "Aju, do you know why you always grow so slowly? Everyone knows that height is little Aju's most fatal weakness." The little girl immediately shook her head and said very seriously, "I don't know. Because you always don't grow your own hair." Master Bai had always been good at studying. At such a young age, he gave people the feeling that he was a student of Tsinghua University. Think about it carefully. Those martial nephews you saw in the temple, did they all have hair in the beginning? Little Aju thought for a moment and nodded her head. Master Bai continued to fool her. "Are they very tall?" Little Aju nodded again. There was a martial nephew who looked like a big bear. "That's because he grew his hair." Baizhan lied without blinking. In fact, Master Bai knew better than anyone else that those people in the temple had all committed crimes. Moreover, they had committed major crimes. Other than some people who were committed by high IQs, they were basically all burly men, so their height was definitely not low. Little Aju tilted her head in confusion. "Grew his hair? You're right." Baizhan had also read the Buddhist scriptures, so he understood the child's thinking very well. He reached out and pulled the small strap on the little panda in his arms. "Isn't there a sentence in our Buddhist scriptures, 'The sea of bitterness is boundless, repent and be saved'? You've been bald since you were young, so how can you express your respect for Buddha? Moreover, all of us keep our hair, but you don't. Being bald in the temple is a sign of respect to the Buddha. Being bald outside the temple will only affect your growth." Little Aju's face was solemn as she listened very carefully. She really had not considered this before. Come to think of it, not to mention his martial nephews, even his senior martial brothers used to have hair. It seemed that she had to grow her hair out first. "I will never shave my head again." After the little person finished speaking seriously, she lay on Baizhan's body. She was so soft that she really looked like a little panda. Baizhan had always been good to her. Ever since the two of them separated last time, they had never had any conflicts and had always slept together. At 8:30 p.m., it was probably time for Baizhan to tell little Aju a bedtime story. The little person's favorite action was to use one of her little claws to grab one of her calves. The other calf had to be placed on Baizhan's body. It always looked a little clingy. Baizhan never despised the child for sticking to him. On the contrary, the more it was like this, the better his mood was. Even Master Li knew that if he wanted to ask Baizhan to do something, little Aju had to be present. In this way, the chances of success were as high as 90%. Of course, ever since little Aju came to the Bai family, there was an unwritten rule between the little friends. That was, they were not allowed to call Baizhan between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. Whoever called would have to wait for Baizhan to give them a cold shoulder the next day. This was the time for little Aju to sleep. Baizhan had to coax the child. It was the same today, but the only difference was that after little Ajiu finished listening to the story, she did not go to sleep immediately. Instead, she arched her small body and lay in Baijan's arms. She played with the small quilt and asked in a childish voice, "Little brother, what kind of girl do you like?" Baijan, who was still thinking about covering the little girl with the quilt, suddenly paused. For the second time in his life, he felt choked by someone. Helpless, little Ajiu seemed to be very curious about this matter. Her big bright eyes looked at him as if she would not sleep today if he did not tell her. Baijan had no choice but to smile and say, "Why did you ask all of a sudden?" "Some of the older sisters asked me. Other than knowing that you like girls who can eat a lot, I don't know anything else." As little Ajiu said this, she somersaulted. "So I told them this." Baijan looked at her silly and cute appearance and wanted to laugh, but, "In the future, when they ask you questions, just say that you don't know either. Little brother is not happy that others ask you that. Troublesome." "Oh." Little Ajiu seemed to understand. "Then I won't ask anymore." Baijan carried the child over and hugged her in his arms. "Of course it's fine for Ajiu to ask, but this is a secret between you and me. You can't tell others. Not even Li Hailu? I can't even tell him." When the little girl heard that she could not even tell her best friend, her expression immediately became serious. "Little brother, don't worry. I swear on my name as the future temple host that I will never tell anyone the secret between you and me." Baijan's eyes were filled with a smile. "I like furry girls who roll around on the bed. I eat a lot and have great strength. I want to be a temple host." Little Ajiu paused, and her eyes lit up. "Isn't that me? It's you." Baijan really had unprecedented patience for Ajiu. "Can you sleep now?" The little girl nodded heavily. She put down the small quilt that she was playing with and covered the two of them. She was very manly. "Sleep." Baijan coaxed her before quietly standing up. Then, he pushed open the door and walked downstairs. The first thing he did was to call Li Hailu back. "What did you just send? Didn't we agree to play games together today? The few of us are waiting. Is little Ajiu asleep? I'll go online now. I can't play too late. I still have math class tomorrow." I know. "Master, go online quickly. We've been waiting for you for a long time. One more thing." Baijan paused for a moment. Li Hailu immediately realized that it was an important matter. "What?" "Don't always let those girls send love letters to Ajiu. She's still young." Chapter 1146. By now, everyone knew that the child that the Bai family brought back was Master Bai's life. Master Li immediately nodded. "No problem. But Master Bai, I have to give you a piece of advice. This is all your fault for being too handsome and too attractive. Keep a low profile in the future, understand? Get lost. Turn on the computer and connect." Baijan laughed softly. Master Li was very excited. "To be honest, leave a way out for us brothers. Do you know what it means to be single? Look, we're almost in the 6th grade now, right? When we're in the 6th grade, you can still live peacefully for a year. When we're in the middle school, there will be other students. At that time, there will definitely be many female students who will send you love letters. You should consider our feelings." "No, that's not right. It's not us, it's me. Xiao Lin, that boring man, actually has girls who like him. I don't understand. I'm so handsome, why doesn't anyone send me love letters? To think that I secretly spray my mother's perfume before going to school every day. Don't these girls smell it?" Baijan slowly turned on the computer. "No girl likes a girl who sprays enough female perfume. No wonder you received a boy's confession." "Shut up." Master Li was scared. "Don't talk about that idiot. One day, I will kill him." Baijan chuckled. "I think he treats you well and is very sincere in marrying you home. Anyway, you two have been engaged when you were a child. At that time, didn't you always look forward to going to junior high and seeing the Princess Jiyu in your heart? Why didn't you look forward to it after meeting him in advance?" "That's because I always thought that he was a girl." "Tell me, why is a boy called Gurao? Isn't this deliberately making people misunderstand?" Master Li let out a long sigh. To think that I, Master Li, have kept my chastity for him for more than 10 years. It's all a trick. Bai Zhan reminded him, you're just 10 years old this year. I've kept my chastity for my Princess Jiyu since I was in my mother's womb. Little gangster Li gritted his teeth and said, who would have thought that he was a man? Forget it, let's not talk about him anymore. Let's focus on you. If you continue to be a public nuisance to our boys, when you enter junior high, you will receive even more love letters. Those girls are not stupid. When they see that I can't deliver a love letter, they will definitely make a move on little Aju. If you don't want her to have any more trouble, you should find a girl as soon as possible. My old man said that actually, getting a wife is just like that. It is quite boring. When little gangster Li said this, little gangster Li's mother had just returned. At that time, his father was also beside his mother. He looked at his wife very loyally and didn't care about what Li Hailu was saying at all. By the time he reacted, his wife had already stopped him from entering the house. She even asked him to reflect on why he felt that marriage was boring. Therefore, that night, Li Hailu was beaten up by his father again. However, after hearing what he said, Lord Bai did have some concerns. After turning off the computer, Bai Zhan returned to his room. Looking at the little girl who was sleeping soundly with her little belly exposed, his eyes darkened. Little Ajiu came down from the mountain. There were some things that he did not want the child to worry about, especially these unimportant things. Moreover, the child was still so young. It was not very good to be exposed to things like or dislike so early. It was fine to say that he was selfish or that he did not know how to teach children. He did not want Aju to understand what it meant to like so early. Because it was very likely that once she knew what that kind of feeling was, she would leave him. The current Bai Zhan could no longer believe what would happen to him if the little girl in front of him was no longer around. If the other party had never appeared, he could eat alone, shower alone, and sleep alone. But she just had to appear. She was so soft and small, but when something happened, her first reaction was to protect him. She even said that she had promised her grandfather that she would take good care of him. And because of the matter of being called a country bumpkin not long ago, she gave him a lot of money and said that she would support him in the future. He did not want anyone to know how cute his little Ajiu was at all. He clearly knew that this was not right. But at this moment, Bai Zhan let himself go. He did not want little Ajiu to leave him. He never wanted to. Bai Zhan reached out and hugged the child in his arms. It was as if this was the only way to calm the uneasiness in his heart. In fact, this matter was easy to solve. As long as he did not let Ajiu come into contact with those so-called love letters again, just like that, day after day passed. It was another romantic end of summer. This summer vacation should be the happiest summer vacation Li Hailu had ever had. Because he had entered junior high school, there was no homework to do. The few people in the courtyard were playing unbridled. Of course, even if there were no rules, they still had to go home at 7 o'clock. Because little Ajiu was around, they could not be too unruly. Otherwise, when the time came, the child would definitely chant scriptures to them. They could endure it, but they could not endure Master Bai doting on the child. It was true that little Ajiu did whatever she said. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that little Ajiu was very important to Master Bai. Those who wanted the Bai family to do something had long thought about this matter. Otherwise, there would be rumors outside that if they wanted to make the eldest young master of the Bai family happy, as long as they praised little Ajiu a few times, the matter would be considered settled. Little Ajiu was obedient, but her strength was so great that it hurt the self-esteem of these youths. Sometimes, Bai Zhan liked to read in the courtyard. He asked Auntie Wang to cut a few pieces of frozen watermelon and sat on a chair made of reeds. He lowered his eyes and studied the third-grade questions in his hand. Bai Zhan had always been like this. Before he entered the first grade, he had already learned the knowledge of the third grade. This was Master Bai's nature. Little Ajiu sat beside him, holding a large cattail leaf fan in her hand. She fanned herself again and again, not tired at all. She was even humming Buddhist songs. Bai Zhan knew how to teach children. He changed the Buddhist songs into an English version and gave it to little Ajiu. Sometimes, He would hold the little girl and teach her a few Chinese questions. Little Aju was very serious when she studied. She just liked to scratch her big head. She was about to turn 5 years old. She had already become a little girl with a doll's head. Her hair was neither long nor short, just enough to cover her small pointed chin, making the child's eyes bigger and more beautiful. All of this seemed to have become the most beautiful scenery in the courtyard. Everyone who passed by the Bai family could see the young master of the Bai family holding a cute little panda in his arms, seriously learning English, mathematics, and Chinese. Every time Li Bawang's father saw this scene, he would drag Li Bawang out and beat him up. A 10-year-old young man was not as obedient as a 5-year-old child. Beat him up. Chapter 1147. After the summer vacation, the children in the courtyard became real junior high school students. Although the 6th grade was only 1 year away from junior high school. However, for children of that age, this was a qualitative leap. Other than the desire to become beautiful like when they were young, most of the girls really felt touched. This year, little Aju successfully entered the primary school of number 1 high school. She was in the same school as Bai Zhen, but one was in the east and the other was in the west. At first, the teacher thought that little Aju was too small and thought that she was not old enough. Who would have thought that little Aju would do the test and even know the questions of the 3rd and 4th grades? Little Aju did not want to be in the 1st grade either. It was not because of anything else, but because she was afraid that she would not be able to control herself and beat up the children in the class. After all, they were so young. What if she broke them with one punch? Thinking of these things, little Aju was a little conflicted. Later, after learning from Master Li that her little brother had skipped a grade, she began to strongly request to go directly to the 3rd grade. Even if Xiao Lin's mother was the principal, she could not use her personal power too much. She was wearing the little tiger's clothes and said seriously, "Auntie Xiao, can I take the test like little brother did before?" Wuli Buddha said that I have to follow the rules. If I pass, Auntie Xiao will let me go to the 3rd grade, okay? This way, when I beat people up, I won't have so many scruples. I just saw that the children in the 3rd grade are very strong like Master Li. Mother Xiao was amused by the little girl's seriousness and did not know whether to laugh or cry. When Master Li heard this from the side, he felt that he had fallen into a deep pit. After all, Mother Xiao was an adult, so she thought more. She turned her head and asked Bai Zhen, "Little Zhen, what do you think? Do you also agree with little Aju skipping a grade?" If she could not keep up, it would be very difficult for little Aju to study. "Auntie Xiao, don't worry. I will teach her well." Mother Xiao understood what Bai Zhen meant when he said such polite words. It was said that little Zhen doted on the child. Today, she saw that he lived up to his reputation. Then let's pass the test first. She had to rely on her strength to speak. This way, she would not be a laughingstock. Little Aju immediately nodded in agreement. Don't expect to see the determination of a tough girl to learn. In little Aju's words, she was going to be a temple abbot in the future. How could she not even pass an exam? In fact, there were other students who skipped grades in primary school, but under normal circumstances, they would only skip 1 grade. There was no one like her, who had never been to school before, and went straight to 3rd grade as soon as she came. Among the 3 students taking the exam, Aju was the youngest. She was writing the test paper in a daze. Because he used to be a little monk, the child had developed the habit of knocking his head with a pencil. Li Hailu, Xiao Lin, and the others were all watching outside the classroom. Li Hailu had always felt that things like exams were specially created to torture people. He really did not understand why little Aju was so passionate about exams. She was really like who raised her. She had the same hobby as Lord Bai. However, to be honest, Li Hailu was still a little worried. His fingers were on the window as he said to Xiao Lin very seriously, "Will Aju be okay? Do you want us to help her cheat?" "Help her cheat?" Xiao Lin glanced at him indifferently. "Don't forget, there was one time when you didn't know how to write. It was Aju who taught you." Li Hailu was really angry. He wanted to help their child, so why was he being attacked again? In any case, the few of them had been together for a long time, so they would kick each other without saying a word. After saying a few words, they started to make a fuss. Baijan only stood quietly in the corridor, looking at the little girl who was scratching her head. He was afraid that little Ajiu would be hungry if she took too long to do the questions. Fortunately, the number of questions was not big, and little Ajiu was the first to hand in the paper. After giving the teacher the paper, she ran out of the classroom like a little tiger and threw herself straight into Baijan's arms. Baijan reached out and caught the child. "Are the questions difficult?" "They're okay." Little Ajiu raised her little face. "It's just that I got hungry as I was writing, so I didn't write the questions in front." Li Hailu was puzzled. "You didn't write the questions in front. Shouldn't it be that you didn't write the questions in the back?" Little brother said that exams are not the same thing as studying. Exams are about strategy. The questions in the back are more points than the ones in the front. You have to do the questions with more points correctly. When the time comes, even if you don't have time or if an accident happens, it doesn't matter if you lose a few points. After little Ajiu finished speaking, she blinked her big eyes and said to Baijan, "Little brother, why doesn't Li Hailu understand such a simple principle?" Baijan picked up the child and said as he walked, "Because he's stupid." Li Hailu was speechless. Because Xiao Lin was there, they knew the results of the exam on the first day. Although little Ajiu did not do the best in the exam, she still exceeded the cutoff score by a lot. There was no problem for her to directly enter the 3rd grade. For this reason, the Bai family specially held a celebration party. After learning the news of skipping a grade, Li Hailu was beaten up by his father again. Because they had to check the score before entering junior high school, Li Hailu's score was simply incomparable to little Ajiu's. Li Hailu felt that he was a scam. Why did he have to have such a group of top students by his side? It was one thing for Master Bai to be a freak. Even the child he raised was so super. He would not play with him anymore in the future. He would blacklist him. Although he said that, when school started, Li Hailu still followed Baijan to send little Ajiu to the classroom. The 3rd grade children all looked at each other and then turned their gazes to little Ajiu. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity. At first, Mother Xiao was worried that little Ajiu would not be able to withstand the gazes of her classmates. Later, she was not worried about this. She began to worry about how she would deal with it if another little boy came over and said that little Ajiu had beaten him to tears. A 3rd grade boy was beaten to tears by a 6-year-old girl. Little Ajiu had always relied on her martial arts to suppress others. When the little girls in the class were bullied, that little shadow would immediately rush out. For this reason, little Ajiu successfully became the class belle of their class. You didn't hear wrongly. She was the class belle. This was because all the boys in the class combined were not as strong as little Ajiu. Moreover, she was likable to begin with. Although she liked to sleep in class, she was never noisy. She would only meditate occasionally. She also seriously told the teacher the reason why she had to meditate in class. To put it simply, she was going to be a temple abbot in the future. She had to recite scriptures every day. Otherwise, her Buddha would abandon her. Chapter 1148. In addition, their class belle also liked to eat very much. Whatever was given to her, she would politely say thank you and then recite a mitapur. She was like a little monk begging for alms. When her soft and fair cheeks puffed up, she was very cute. Let's not talk about how the boys in the class felt about little Ajiu for the time being. For example, the girls who were protected by her would surround her after class. They were afraid that the little girl would fall when she walked. They also never let little Ajiu go to the toilet by herself. Someone had to follow her. Everyone in the class knew that little Ajiu had an older brother. He was not her biological brother. He was indeed a famous figure in the school. In the past, when he was in the primary school, many people already knew about him. Now that he had been promoted to the middle school, his name was not only known by the people in the main school. Even the people from other schools were no stranger to the name Baijan. But there was one thing that was very regrettable. That was that Baijan had a girlfriend. It was said that he was the one being chased. It happened in the first week of middle school. A girl blocked him in the corridor of the classroom. This girl was no stranger to anyone. Her surname was Yang Qin. Her mother was a celebrity, and her father was an official. They had a special car to send her to and from school. The little girl was very beautiful. Her lips were red and her teeth were white. She was a little like a girl in a girl group. She was very energetic. The most precious thing was that she was very smart. She knew how to start with the people around Baizhan. She played very well with Li Hailu and the others. They even played games together. In order to get close to Baizhan, she seemed to have done everything she could. She had a kind of desperation. No one knew what the truth was. But one thing was that Yang Qin released the news that she was Baizhan's girlfriend. Baizhan did not come out to object. This was probably the meaning of tacit agreement. Therefore, the next day, the middle school department was in an uproar. It was not only the first year. Even some of the second-year seniors wanted to have a good talk with Yang Qin. There was probably no one who would not like a boy like Baizhan. Other than his face that made girls' hearts beat faster when they looked at him, the most important thing was the noble temperament that he brought out. He did not look like a boy of their age at all. Baizhan was very quiet, and his personality was even a little indifferent. But it was precisely because of this that girls were captivated. In addition, when he was treating his younger sister, his eyes were always filled with unrelenting gentleness. Therefore, these young girls who had yet to experience love would think that if they were to become his girlfriend one day, would he also be very gentle? Unfortunately, he was already taken. In addition, Yang Qin was the one who was supported by all the girls. Of course, they wouldn't do anything to avoid being implicated. Yang Qin seemed to be a nice person. She had a good temper and liked to act coquettishly. She was also pretty. But because there was one time when someone confessed to Baizhan, she incited the entire class to stop talking to that girl. Gradually, it seemed that fewer and fewer people were sending love letters to Baizhan. The name Yang Qin would often appear together with Baizhan. Ring, ring, ring. It was another Friday. When the bell rang, all the students were like grasshoppers in a frying pan. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry to go home. Bang! Yang Qin walked over from the next class. With a faint smile, she placed her school bag on the desk of Li Hailu and the others. There's no class tomorrow, and the weather is so good today. Do you want to go to Starbucks with us to do homework? Lily and the others are going. You and Baizhan should come too. How about it? Oh right, you can also call our young master Xiao. It's said that his English is especially good. Is that true? Lindsay has liked to speak English since she was young. Li Hailu's eyes were very bright. Why? The girls in your class want to learn English. Yang Qin took the opportunity to sit opposite him and Baizhan. Didn't you give me a lot of English homework this time? I have no problem. My mother has been teaching me since I was young. The other girls can't keep up. Let's have one-on-one tutoring. How about it? Okay. Please forgive children at this age. They were shy and had the urge to understand female classmates. Li Hailu was a typical example. Where's the Starbucks? It's on the road in front of the school. Let's not go home. We'll eat dinner outside. We're all carrying school bags and wearing school uniforms. It's not worth it to go home and change. As Yang Qin said this, she looked at Baizhan. Master Bai, what do you think? It was unknown when Yang Qin started to call Baizhan Master Bai like Li Hailu and the others. Baizhan lowered his eyes. His side profile was as white as jade, and he had the clear aura of a youth. You guys go. I don't have time. You're going to pick up your sister again? Yang Qin asked with a light smile. Why don't you put Aju down and come out again? We'll wait for you at the Starbucks. No need. You guys can play. Baizhan slung the black shoulder bag on his left shoulder. His back was straight like a pine tree. The school uniform of the Imperial Capital First High School was originally of better quality than the school uniforms of other high schools. In addition, Baizhan's temperament was there. His every move made people want to follow his figure. Yang Qin sat there and watched his back gradually disappear into the corridor of the classroom. Her fingers on the table were tightly clenched. However, she still had a smile on her face. She pretended to ask Li Hailu casually, I heard that Aju is very smart and can go home by herself. Why does she always let Baizhan send her home? She really clings to her brother. When I was young, I also clung to my brother, but it wasn't to this extent. Did something happen in the past? Nothing happened, Li Hailu replied casually. Yang Qin narrowed her eyes, and her gaze also changed. Her long line of sight had a faint light, and no one knew what she was thinking. In the elementary school, Aju was wiping the blackboard. Because she was too small, she moved a chair over. The little girl stepped on it and exerted force with her hand. Crack! The blackboard cracked. The boy next to her looked at her with a tearless face. Aju, Guanyin Bodhisattva, class bell, can you sit aside for a while? This is already the 4th blackboard that you have broken. The teacher said that if the blackboard cracks again, he will make me wipe the blackboard for a semester. I beg you, let me do it myself. Aju just wanted to help, but it seemed that the more she helped, the more trouble she got. The child had no choice. She stretched out her little claws and scratched her big head. Then, she gave the blackboard to the boy and stood there, looking for something else to do. Helpless, everyone was on guard against their class bell coming to cause trouble again. In the end, someone shouted, Baizhan is here. Only then did Aju carry her small tortoise-shell schoolbag and look out of the classroom with bright eyes. Chapter 1149. Baizhan was wearing his school uniform with one hand in his belt. He just stood in the corridor. The afterglow of the dusk scattered on his face, making people think of the word clean. He looked at little Aju with a smile. In his hand was the snack bean bun that he had bought for the child. The people here stopped what they were doing and looked at young Master Bai. Although Baizhan came to pick up his sister every day, his handsome face was always not enough. Little Aju originally wanted to rush out, but she still had to clean up, so she gestured to Baizhan, meaning that he should wait for a while. Are you on duty today? Baizhan asked the 3rd grade students. Then I'll wait here. You guys sweep the floor first and let little Aju out later. The boy who was asked immediately shook his head and said, Senior brother, we don't need little Aju's help. Really? We can completely clean the classroom. Please, quickly take the class bell away. The smart Baizhan immediately understood the meaning behind his words. He smiled at little Aju and said, I think this side is also clean. Just leave the rest to the students. Auntie Wang made fried meatballs today. She just called me and asked me to bring you back early. Moreover, didn't we agree to buy something for Master today? Didn't we say tomorrow? Little Aju held the broom and raised her pink and tender little face. She scratched her head in confusion. Baizhan took the opportunity to walk in and held the child's hand. Then, he handed the broom to the little boy beside him and said calmly, It's today. You remembered wrongly. When little Aju heard this, her little brows furrowed. Baizhan bent down and hugged the child. He smiled faintly. Have you ever thought about what to buy for Master? Buy yogurt and small cakes. The little one said seriously, Master loves to eat sweet things. When those kind and charitable benefactors burn incense, he always stealthily eats them. Baizhan agreed as he emptied a hand and gestured to the person behind him. The 3rd grade students really admired Baizhan. With just a few simple words, he had coaxed the little class bell. As expected, people in junior high were different. Everyone had been a child before. When they were children, everyone looked forward to growing up as soon as possible. Therefore, those junior high school students became the people they wanted to be the most. Baizhan was undoubtedly the best candidate. Little Aju was actually heavier than an ordinary child. However, for Lord Bai, who had been touching guns since he was young, carrying Aju with one hand was not a big deal. Children were easily hungry. The only thing Baizhan was worried about in class was that the child would not have anything to eat. Fortunately, his Aju was popular, and the students in the class would give her snacks to eat. Now, little Aju was holding a bin bun in her hand and eating it with her big eyes. She was extremely obedient. The few teachers in the school basically knew that Baizhan brought the child to school. Even if they doted on him so much, it was inevitable that they would take a few more glances at him. You really can't find any fault with this older brother. Adjutant Zhong was already waiting outside the school in his car. When he saw young master and miss coming out, he immediately opened the car door. Bai Zhan hugged Adju and said in a good mood, "Uncle Zhong, let's not go home directly today. Let's go to the dessert shop first." Deal. Vice Commander Zhong was sent by Grandpa Bai to protect Bai Zhan. He has been following Bai Zhan since he was young. He knows that young master doesn't eat sweet things. He wants to buy this for Miss. After little Adju finished eating the bean bun, she licked her little claws. Bai Zhan frowned, but his voice was gentle. He pulled the child's hand over. "If you continue to be so unhygienic in the future, Buddha won't love you anymore." Little Adju tilted her head and lowered her eyes to lick again. However, this time, she didn't lick her palm, but Bai Zhan's. Bai Zhan really couldn't do anything to her. He hugged the little girl, and the smile at the corner of his mouth was so obvious. Adjutant Zhong couldn't help but sigh. It had only been a year. In a year's time, others didn't know, but they knew very well how much the young master had changed. The two children bought the yogurt cake and went home. Little Adju took the most things, and she was still holding Bai Zhan's school bag in her hand. However, when she opened the door, the child was stunned. Because a person she had never seen before appeared. "You're Bai Zhan's sister, right? You're so cute." The person who spoke was none other than Yang Qin. She bent down and pinched little Adju's face with her fingers. Little Adju paused for a moment and turned around to look at Bai Zhan behind her. Bai Zhan's expression was very indifferent. "Why are you here?" "Oh, I discussed with Li Hailu and felt that Starbucks was too inconvenient. Since you can't go, we might as well come directly to your house." Yang Qin smiled and put her hands behind her back. "And I wanted to see little Adju. Now that I've seen her today, she's indeed my type. Why is she so beautiful?" Little Adju didn't understand what was going on, but from the looks of it, she should be an acquaintance of Bai Zhan. "Is Bai Zhan's bag especially heavy? Let me take it." "You guys come in quickly," Yang Qin said as she took the bag from little Adju's hand. Little Adju was stunned for a moment, then she carried her little turtle shell into the room. There were many people in the living room. Two of them were Yang Qin's friends, and the other were Li Hailu and Xiao Lin. Xiao Lin was indeed like what Li Hailu had said. He never had any expression on his face, except when he saw little Adju. In the courtyard, other than Bai Zhan, Xiao Lin and Li Hailu were the best to little Adju. When Xiao Lin saw the child come in, a smile appeared on his face. "Adju, come here and see what brother Xiao Lin bought for you." Little Adju's eyes lit up as she looked at the book in Xiao Lin's hand. There's even Wuli Buddha printed on it. "I brought it back from the temple." Xiao Lin smiled and put his arm around the child's shoulder. "Look at the Buddhist scriptures on the back and the yellow paper on the front. You can copy the scriptures on it or write a diary." It could be seen that little Adju liked this gift very much. She just stayed by Xiao Lin's side and did not come out. From afar, it looked like she was being hugged by Xiao Lin. Bai Zhan poured a glass of water. When he walked over, this was the scene he saw. His footsteps paused for a moment before he reached out and hugged the child. "Adju, what are you looking at?" "The Buddhist scriptures that brother Xiao Lin gave me." The little girl raised her little hand high as if she was presenting a treasure. "Brother, smell it. Does it smell like a temple?" Bai Zhan leaned over and sniffed it. The corners of his mouth curled up. "Yes, it does smell like sandalwood. However, Adju, you've forgotten that things like scriptures have to be sincerely requested. If others give it to you, it won't have any effect." Little Adju listened to Bai Zhan's words and looked at the newly obtained scripture in her hand. Then, she glanced in Xiao Lin's direction. Even though she was reluctant to part with it, she still stretched out her little hand. "Brother Xiao Lin is right. This scripture was requested by brother Xiao Lin." Chapter 1150. Xiao Lin paused and glanced at Bai Zhan first. Then, he reached out and took the scripture book. "It's okay. Brother Xiao Lin has other gifts here." Hearing this, the child's little claws reached out again. Her beautiful big eyes lit up and she was very cute. "What other gifts do you have?" Bai Zhan looked at his empty hand and raised his eyes to meet Xiao Lin's gaze. Xiao Lin seemed to have discovered something, and the smile on his thin lips deepened. That's right. There's a pencil here. It's the core of a lotus seed. Smell it and see if it smells like your favorite lotus seed. Little Aju lay on the ground and sniffed with all her might like a little hamster. In the end, it was Bai Zhan who picked her up and brought her upstairs with the excuse that she needed to change her clothes after eating. Yang Qin's two friends ate a piece of fruit before using their left hands to touch little Tyrant, who was still teaching. Let's not be third wheels later, okay? What third wheels? Little Tyrant Li was at a loss. The two girls signaled Yang Qin with their eyes and then glanced upstairs. Little Tyrant Li instantly understood, but he did not agree. Master Bai doesn't like people to do anything in front of little Aju. Save it. Let's make it clear first. You want to do the questions, so I brought you here. Bai Zhan doesn't like anyone to come to the Bai family. So what? Our goddess Qin is his girlfriend. The two girls chuckled and said, he can't be more important than his girlfriend, right? I saw that Bai Zhan was quite happy to see goddess Qin just now. Bam! Little Tyrant Li put down the pen in his hand heavily. The sound was so loud that it scared the two girls. What do you mean by raising a sister? Little Tyrant Li's face darkened, and he was actually a little fierce. Watch your words. That's our biological sister. Not to mention the two girls, even Yang Qin did not expect little Tyrant Li's reaction to be so big. She immediately said to little gangster Li, of course she's my biological sister. I also like little Aju. Didn't we come to the Bai family because we wanted to see little Aju? They said that raising a little sister means adoption. Let's do the questions. When little Aju comes down later, how about we braid her for her? Only then did Li Hailu calm down, but he was not as enthusiastic as before. If this had happened before, he would have been very happy to have so many girls. Just a moment ago, he thought that it was his charm that had worked. Now, he felt uncomfortable in his heart. He couldn't tell what was wrong, but he concluded that he would never bring a girl to the Bai family again. Xiao Lin was the one who sat the calmest. He didn't care about these girls at all. The Xiao family was different from the Li family. They were born to walk the political path. Xiao Lin was destined to mature faster than many people. At this moment, he was thinking about something, and this matter had a very direct relationship with Bai Zhan. After a while, little Aju changed into her pajamas and walked down. Everyone knew what kind of pajamas little Aju was wearing. It was either a bear, a cat, or a little tiger. Today, little Aju was wearing kitten pajamas. Her little tail could melt a person's heart. Auntie Wang was still busy in the kitchen. When she looked up, she saw little Aju staggering towards her. She was holding a yogurt cake in her little hand, which meant that she wanted to give it to Auntie Wang. Auntie Wang opened her mouth and smiled. It's delicious. I helped Auntie Wang get the bowl. Little Aju liked to stand by the kitchen. Bai Zhan and Xiao Lin knew this, so they didn't care. On the other hand, although Yang Qin was sitting in the living room writing questions, she would still look over from time to time. She did not understand why this child was so close to an auntie who was cooking. Thinking of this, Yang Qin stood up and walked to the kitchen. She asked with a smile, Auntie Wang, is there anything you need our help with? No, Miss Yang, right? Go and sit down. I'll be done soon. Auntie Wang was busy turning the dishes around. Little Aju stood there and waited. As soon as the plate was full, the child immediately picked it up with both hands and placed the food on the dining table like a small top. Seeing this, Yang Qin turned her eyes and smiled again. Aju, come, sister will help you. Little Aju looked at her and stopped. Then, she shook her head and said very seriously, I'm going to be an abbot in the future. Woolly Buddha said that you have to do your own things. Yang Qin had never seen such a strange child. Who would talk about Buddha all day long? Moreover, she always felt that this child was a little too clingy to Bai Zhan. She was clearly not his biological child. Yang Qin lowered her eyes, and a sharp light flashed in her eyes. Young master. Auntie Wang wiped her hands on her apron. It's time for dinner. I've cooked a lot of dishes today. In a while, I'll go to the canteen in the courtyard to buy some steamed buns for Miss. There's a lot of steamed rice, and there are sweet potatoes in it. Miss likes to eat them. Auntie Wang really doted on her little Aju. Baijan had once accidentally burned the child's mouth when he was feeding her. Now, whatever little Aju ate had to go into his mouth first. Now that he heard Auntie Wang's reminder, of course, he immediately nodded. Little Aju had always been obedient. She held her small bowl and sat on the small wooden chair that was exclusive to her. Her lotus root-like calves swayed back and forth. Baijan looked at her hands. Seeing that they were clean, he did not say anything. He put down the book in his hand and let everyone eat. The Bai family had always been good at treating guests. Their upbringing was very strict. Since they were already here, of course, they would make proper arrangements. The table full of dishes were all vegetarian. The presentation of the dishes was very beautiful. The two female students sat down. Both of them were surprised. The vegetarian dishes are so beautiful. Don't the Bai family eat meat? Little Aju believes in Buddha. Xiao Lin's words could be considered an explanation. One of the female students sat opposite him with a red face. The other female student was also observant. She pushed Yang Qin and asked her to go over and sit with Baijan. However, there was a problem. Little Aju was sitting next to Baijan. When the female student saw this, she smiled at the little girl. Little Aju, can you come over and let your sister Yang talk to your brother for a while? Little Aju's little claws had just touched her small bowl. She thought that she was going to eat. When she heard the female student's words, she raised her little face and was a little dazed. Xiao Lin looked at the child. Before Baijan could speak, he smiled and said, "Then let little Aju sit with me." When he said this, he was looking at Baijan. Baijan did not look at anyone. He directly picked up the spoon beside little Aju. He first blew on it, then fed the rice in the spoon into little Aju's mouth. His voice was cold. "If you want to eat, sit down. If you don't want to, go out." Chapter 1151. It was just a few words, but the coldness in them made the girls pause for a moment. The atmosphere was inevitably a little solemn. After all, they had never seen Baijan angry before. Yang Qin also withdrew her hand. She was smart and knew how to resolve the awkwardness. She smiled and said, "This position is pretty good. Wow, this dish tastes so good." Baijan ignored her. It should be said that in Baijan's eyes, there was no one else other than Aju. He took out a tissue and wiped the child's mouth. Then, he used a spoon to scoop some vegetable soup and sprinkled it into the white rice. He mixed it and fed it to the little girl. Aju opened her small mouth at the right time and narrowed her big eyes. After chewing for a while, her cheeks were bulging. She secretly glanced at Baijan again. Baijan knew that his attitude was not right. He was worried that he would scare the child, so he lowered his voice. "Do you want to eat another cauliflower?" Aju nodded her little head. Only then did Baijan disperse the chill in his body. He picked up a green cauliflower on the child's plate. Little Aju ate seriously. She bit one end of the cauliflower and chewed it. Baijan saw that she was having a hard time eating. He held her small hand with a faint smile and very patiently helped her push the cauliflower away. At that moment, everyone could feel the warmth emitted from Baijan's body. Yang Qin watched this scene and tightened her grip on her chopsticks. The other two girls also felt that Baijan doted on his sister too much. Just because of such a child, he embarrassed them. It was a little too much. "Baijan, Aju is already 6 years old, right?" Yang Qin smiled and held her cheek. "She's really cute. I've always wanted such a sister. But Aju, you're already so old. It's not good to always let your brother feed you. We girls have to be independent." Hearing this, Aju turned her head and glanced at Yang Qin. The little tail behind her swayed. She did not say anything and directly took the small spoon in Baijan's hand. She dug the rice for herself bit by bit and ate it with great relish. However, at this moment, Baijan's deep eyes gradually condensed into a true coldness. Li Hailu always felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what exactly was wrong. Only Xiao Lin glanced at Bai Zhen's side profile, full of thoughts. When little Ajiu was eating, her small body was very straight, as if she was born this way. Her etiquette at the dining table was very good. Without Bai Zhen feeding her, she ate quickly. In just a few bites, she finished a large bowl of rice. After finishing 3 big bowls of rice, she took another bin paste bun in her mouth and was about to wash her small clothes. She did not let Bai Zhen carry her anymore. She took her small clothes and small wooden basin. When she ran, her small tail was still wagging. Bai Zhen looked at his empty hand and straightened his back as if he was enduring something. But as long as Ajiu was around, he would not get angry. This was his principle. He knew too well how important a complete family was to a child. He wanted to give little Ajiu everything he could. First of all, he could not let the child see him angry. Little Ajiu had always liked to wash clothes. This was probably the child's nature towards water. She wagged her little tail and pressed those little clothes into the small wooden basin one by one, rubbing them with all her might. Bai Zhen reached out his hand, but she insisted on doing it herself. Her little face was very serious, as if she was completing a very great thing. On the other hand, the 3 girls laughed at the side. Little Ajiu, you don't have to be like this in front of your brother, right? You're already obedient enough. You don't even have to do auntie's things. Come here and talk to us. We'll comb your beautiful princess hair. Yang Qin wanted to get close to little Ajiu. After all, a child was definitely very easy to bribe. Unexpectedly, little Ajiu shook her little head and raised her little face to say, I want to wash clothes. Moreover, monks can't comb their hair. It will break the precepts. The smile on Yang Qin's face froze for a moment, then she bent down again. Then let me help you wash your clothes. I'll send them into the washing machine so that your brother doesn't have to think about you all the time. He still has to teach the other sisters English. Is that okay? When little Ajiu heard this, she raised her little face and looked at Bai Zhen. Then, she nodded. After saying that, little Ajiu lowered her little head and folded her little clothes. Then, she swayed her little body and walked to the sink. She took out her little toothbrush and began to brush her teeth. Usually, Bai Zhen was the one who did these things. Now, seeing that the child did not let him help with anything, even Bai Zhen's fingers stiffened. Auntie Wang also noticed the strange behavior of the 2 children. She brought the fruit plate over and looked over. Miss, why didn't you let young master wash your face for you? Didn't you just say that you wanted to let young master smell the new handmade soap? I want to wash it myself in the future. Little Ajiu held her little fingers and counted seriously. And eating and bathing, I want to do it myself. Auntie Wang was stunned for a moment and subconsciously looked at the young master who was standing beside her. Bai Zhen felt that his throat was a little sore. He lowered his eyes and looked at the little girl. You've already done everything yourself. What else do you want me to do? Little Ajiu blinked and did not say anything. She directly opened the door to watch, which meant that she wanted to take a bath. Bai Zhen suppressed his anger. He would never get angry at little Ajiu. Moreover, the child was not wrong at all in this matter. Yang Qin planned to come to the Bai family and get along well with Bai Zhen. Who would have thought that the result was not what she wanted at all? In the end, it was still the few of them who gathered in the living room to do homework. After sitting for a while, Yang Qin asked Master Li, who was beside her, where's Bai Zhen? Master Li did not say anything. He only wanted to leave now. If it were not for the fact that they were in the same class, he really wanted to kick these people out too. Master Bai's expression was not good. Who knew what would happen later? In any case, he had a bad feeling about this. Could this be the legendary beast-like intuition? Yang Qin saw that Master Li was lowering his head and not saying anything, so she was about to stand up. At this time, Xiao Lin glanced at her. I advise you to put away whatever thoughts you have first. Otherwise, things will get too ugly later and you won't be able to get out of the embarrassing situation. After all, you are the legendary girlfriend of Bai Zhen, aren't you? Even if Yang Qin was scheming, She was still a little girl in her first year of junior high school. To be honest, she and Xiao Lin were not on the same level. She completely could not understand the other meaning of Xiao Lin's words. However, she still sat down. It was not for anything else, but because she did not know what had happened. If she did too much, she would make a mistake. On the other side, little Ajiu washed herself clean in a short while. Her black hair was messy, and her big eyes were very beautiful. She was so exquisite that she looked like a little character in a comic book. The furry pajamas on her body made her look even cuter. Bai Zhen picked up the towel beside him and wanted to dry her hair. However, little Ajiu reached out and stopped him. Chapter 1152. The child was a man of his word. He did his job very neatly. Yang Qin thought that little Ajiu handed the matter to Bai Zhen because she didn't know how to do anything. However, she didn't know that little Ajiu had grown up in a temple. In the temple, little Ajiu had always done her own things. She came to the Bai family and asked Bai Zhen for help only because Bai Zhen liked it. Yang Qin, who thought that she was smart, thought that she had helped Bai Zhen teach the right child this time. After a while, Bai Zhen should have time to accompany them. It had to be said that Yang Qin's fantasy was good. However, when Bai Zhen was about to hold the child and tell her a bedtime story, little Ajiu seriously requested to sleep in separate beds with Bai Zhen. Bai Zhen's beautiful eyes completely darkened. Ajiu wants to sleep by herself. Didn't that sister just say that girls have to be independent? There are so many things for little brother to do. Little brother will be very tired, and I will also delay little brother's time. What if I'm not afraid of being delayed by Ajiu? Ajiu didn't say anything. She looked at Bai Zhen for a while, then shook her head. She pulled the small blanket over her body, which meant that she only wanted to sleep by herself. Bai Zhen had never lost his temper with the little girl. Even now, his left hand was already clenched into a fist by himself. He only bent down and kissed little Ajiu's forehead. All right, since Ajiu likes it. Ajiu's ears drooped and her body curled up. The silent rejection made Bai Zhen's fingers stiffen. He stood up with him and walked downstairs. There was no joy or anger on his face. However, Auntie Wang, who was familiar with him, clearly realized that the young master was not in a good mood. When the two girls saw him, they still had a smile on their faces. Bai Zhen, you're finally down. Your sister is really clingy to you. Now that Yang Qin said that, she's become much more sensible. Yang Qin also looked at Bai Zhen with a slightly red face. I have a question here that I don't know. Teach me. Anyway, little Ajiu is also going up. After hearing this sentence, Bai Zhen didn't care about the Bai family's hospitality. He looked at them coldly and said in a deep voice, "Who brought these three people in?" These girls had never seen Bai Zhen get angry before. In the past, when they saw him in school, he always had an indifferent expression. Otherwise, he would be extremely gentle to the children. No one would have thought that when he was angry, he would be even more terrifying than an adult. The young man's face was filled with ice. I'll ask you one more time. Who brought these three people in? Li Hailu shrunk his neck and then stood up. Don't be angry. This matter. Take them all away. Bai Zhen's voice was very cold, so cold that it made people feel a chill in their hearts. Even those who didn't know what was going on knew that this time, he was really angry. How could he not be popular? The child that he raised, in the end, didn't even allow him to touch a finger. All right, since these people dared to make things difficult for him, he would make them unhappy as well. The girls seemed to be frightened, but they were all pampered and spoiled. Bai Zhen, aren't you going a little too far? Forget about us. Yang Qin is your girlfriend. How can you treat her like this? Bai Zhen sneered. Girlfriend? It seems that someone needs to explain how this word came about. Yang Qin, when you confessed, how did I reject you? Do you need me to repeat it again? The blood on Yang Qin's face was drained. She opened her mouth. This matter, I didn't clarify the rumors that you spread outside. I just didn't want to go through so much trouble. Bai Zhen looked at her with his deep eyes. But who allowed you to come to my house and use those methods of yours? Student Yang, Who do you think you are? You bastard. Yang Qin was really embarrassed by Bai Zhen's attitude. She directly ran out of the Bai family's house in tears. The coldness on Bai Zhen's face had not disappeared. He was not happy that someone came to disturb him and Adju. The Bai family's upbringing had made him endure it. In the end, these three people actually went overboard and set their sights on little Adju. Did they think that he, Bai Zhen, was dead? When the other two girls saw that Yang Qin had run away, they quickly put away their things. Their thoughts were very chaotic. It turned out that Bai Zhen had rejected Yang Qin. She was not Bai Zhen's girlfriend. Thinking about it carefully, these two people did not seem to have been alone before. In other words, Yang Qin had been spreading rumors. Oh my God, what kind of secret did they know? The two girls looked at each other and hugged their books in shock. The chill on Bai Zhen's body did not decrease at all because of the three girls' departure. He called the school. This was the first time he used the Bai family's power to ask the principal to change his class. He did not have any requirements for the class, as long as it was close to the primary school. As for Yang Qin, Bai Zhen had thousands of ways to let her know what would happen if she had designs on Adju. Li Hailu felt that his intuition was not wrong at all. Master Bai was really angry. Otherwise, even if it was to maintain his upbringing, he would not have chased people away. Xiao Lin did not say anything the whole time. He only looked at Bai Zhen with a deeper meaning in his eyes. Bai Zhen also glanced at him. Take your pencil too. Adju doesn't need it. Xiao Lin immediately smiled. Okay, I'll take it. But Bai Zhen, let's make it clear. I also like Adju very much. There are so many people who like her. Bai Zhen raised his eyebrows and smiled as well. You're just one of them, and I'm her guardian. In other words, you better behave yourself, understand? Xiao Lin looked at the back and shook his head. Well, Bai Zhen cared more about Adju than he had imagined. Was it that simple to have a sister complex? Why did he feel that this was not the case? After Bai Zhen finished dealing with these things, he remembered that his voice might have been a little loud. He glanced at Auntie Wang, who was standing by the stairs, and lowered his voice. What about her? Is she asleep? Auntie Wang looked at the cautious Bai Zhen and smiled. How can she sleep? She's probably still waiting for young master. After saying that, she subconsciously looked at the young man's expression. Seeing that his lines had softened a little, she continued, Miss has been here for so long. For almost a year, young master has been personally taking care of her. I'm already used to it. As soon as young master left, the child was hugging the small blanket in a daze. She didn't even sleep. She must be reluctant to part with young master. After Bai Zhen heard this, his eyes finally warmed up. He reached out and pushed the door open. He saw the little girl rolling on the bed, practicing martial arts. Her little tail was swaying on the bed. After seeing Bai Zhen come in, Adju stopped. Her little face was cute, and there was a lock of hair on her head that stood up. Chapter 1153. Have you ever seen a little tiger fall? Little Adju looked like that now. Bai Zhen looked at her little face, and the anger in his heart finally subsided. He knew that the child had eaten very little just now, so he specially brought her a yogurt cake. He didn't care how Auntie Wang usually nagged him, saying that he couldn't spoil the child too much, especially not letting her eat at night. Otherwise, her teeth would hurt. Bai Zhen also knew his limits. She should be fine after eating a little. Little Adju stared at the cake, and her eyes lit up. Bai Zhen smiled faintly and reached out to straighten the child. Do you want to eat? Little Adju pricked up her little ears and nodded her head vigorously. Bai Zhen had always been patient with children. He held a spoon and dug for her. Little Adju ate very happily. She lowered her long eyelashes and ate one piece. When it was not enough, she ate another piece. She ate until her little belly was full. Only then did she burp and lean on Bai Zhen's body. Adju, I promise you that in the future, no one will disturb us in this house. Bai Zhen wiped the child's mouth. So there are some things that you don't have to do yourself, understand? Little Adju tilted her big head. If that's the case, Won't it take up little brother's time? Little brother's time is used to be taken up by you. Baijan also got on the bed and let the little girl lie on his body. Didn't we agree that we are a family? Of course, a family has to take up each other's time. Little Ajiu felt that Baijan was right, but there was one thing. What if little brother has a girlfriend? I won't have a girlfriend. Baijan's voice was very indifferent. Didn't you also say that the women at the foot of the mountain are tigers? Little Ajiu felt that something was not right. That's not the logic. Master Li said that everyone has to have a girlfriend. I'm a monk, so I stay away from girls. Little brother is not a monk. I'm your senior brother. Have you forgotten? Master Bai automatically turned on his coaxing mode. I'm also a monk, at least half of one. When little Ajiu heard this, her eyes suddenly lit up, and her little face was very serious. Then, little brother, be careful in the future. You can't get close to girls again. Woolly Buddha said that appearance is emptiness, and emptiness is appearance. You can't break the precept, understand? I see that little brother's performance is not very good recently. I will look after little brother on behalf of Buddha. Baijan listened to the child's words and nodded to himself. He couldn't help but laugh. Yes. Then let's sleep. Little Ajiu crawled in Baijan's arms and handed the little prince illustration book on the bedside table to Baijan. She meant that she wanted Baijan to tell her a bedtime story. Baijan smiled faintly and opened the illustration book. The youth's voice was crisp and pleasant. Little Ajiu just leaned in his arms and listened seriously. After listening for a while, her eyes began to get heavy, and her little head was nodding. Baijan pushed away the black hair on Ajiu's head and closed his eyes as well. The two children were finally reconciled. Auntie Wang felt gratified as she watched. If little Ajiu insisted on doing her own thing, no one knew what would happen to the young master. In the morning, little Ajiu was holding a piece of toast in her mouth as usual. Her small hands were holding Baijan's school bag, and her eyes were big. She liked to take Baijan's school bag. Baijan squatted down and tied the child's shoelaces with his slender and fair fingers. The sun shone down on the two of them, pulling their shadows very long. As the class belle of the 3rd grade, little Ajiu was never late for school. It was just that she loved to sleep in class and was more violent. This should be something that everyone knew. To put it simply, those who could make a move would never make a fuss. On this day, little Ajiu was eating the snacks given to her by the next table. In fact, all the 3rd grade students had been taken care of by the school bell. The school bell had gently asked them to take care of the class bell, so how could they not agree? She was their idol. Of course, their idol also said that no boys were allowed to get close to the class bell. At that time, they wanted to say that they were also boys. Could it be that in the eyes of the school bell, they were not even boys? When the 3rd grade students thought of this, they were extremely depressed. The bell rang, and the class bell said that she was going out to play football. Although the class bell was small, she exercised more than all the boys in their class combined. One of the boys did not want to recall his embarrassing scene. In short, where the class bell was, there would be songs and laughter. This was the most unique thing about the 3rd grade Class A. Originally, everything was very cheerful, but just as little Ajiu lowered her head to eat the second bag of small melon seeds, Yang Qin appeared, along with the two girls behind her. They were all first-year students, so of course, the students in the class would tiptoe to look. Ajiu. Yang Qin's eyes were red, as if she had just cried. Help me put in a good word for your brother. That day at your house, I didn't have any other intentions. I just felt that it was best for girls not to always rely on others. Your brother dotes on you so much, so he must have thought that I was insinuating about you. In fact, I just felt that he usually has to study and take care of you. Many times, even when we have gatherings, he doesn't come out. He must be too tired. That's why he said that to you at your house. Little Ajiu was holding a small melon seed in her mouth. Her face was stunned for a moment. The two girls who followed Yang Qin were not the two girls who went to the Bai family that day. They did not know what was going on. In addition, they liked to form cliques in school. They would isolate whoever they did not like. It was not that there were no such students in the middle school department. They were in the same circle as Yang Qin, so of course, they would speak up for her. One of the girls saw that little Aju was standing there and did not speak, so she could not help but speak up. Aju, right? You are Bai Zhen's sister, which means you are our sister. However, you should at least be sensible, right? Now, because of you, your brother is going to break up with your sister Yang Qin. How about you put in a good word for your sister Yang Qin? We will take you to eat Burger King. How about it? When the male student next to her heard this, he felt that the other party did not come with good intentions. He glanced at their little class bell and took a step forward to block her. If there's anything, you should look for the teacher. Aju is still young, so she doesn't understand what you're talking about. After the girl heard this, she glanced at little Aju. She's not a retard. Why can't she understand what we're saying? Aju, we're here to ask for your help. You should also say something. With a brother like Bai Zhen, you shouldn't be too stupid. Even if you're adopted, you should at least have some intelligence. Little Aju still did not say anything, but the small melon seed in her hand was put aside by her. Chapter 1154. Yang Qin seemed to be very wronged. Forget it, she is indeed a little too young. Even if she made a mistake, maybe she doesn't even know what the mistake was. Bai Zhen dotes on his sister. I'll wait for 2 more days. As she said this, Yang Qin lowered her eyes and said to the little girl, Little Aju, Sister Yang Qin doesn't mean to blame you. I'm here to ask for your help. If you want to help me, just nod, okay? Even if she was not familiar with Bai Zhen, she would still have an explanation. She would say that they broke up because he doted on his sister too much. However, there was one thing that Yang Qin did not expect. Little Aju actually looked at her and said clearly, Benefactress, you are not Bai Zhen's girlfriend. Bai Zhen said that day that you always lie like this. Once or twice is fine, but if you say too much, it will make people very angry. Yang Qin's expression changed when she heard this. She looked at Aju with a fierce gaze. Why are you so insensible? Yang Qin sneered, I am indeed very angry that you are clinging to your brother, but I have endured all of this. We had a disagreement because of you, and my first reaction was to come and apologize to you. I really underestimated you. How could a child like you have so many thoughts? You even said that I was lying. That's enough. When the 2 girls who followed her heard Yang Qin's words, their anger also rose. They did not know if it was because they had watched too many TV dramas or something else. They thought that they were good at sex, but in fact, every time they did something, they were bullying others. Moreover, birds of a feather flock together in this world. A group of girls who competed every day about the brand of their clothes and the kind of car their family drove naturally did not feel that there was anything wrong with them making things difficult for a child. If you weren't Bai Zhen's sister, I would really want to teach you a lesson. The person who said this was a very tall girl standing behind Yang Qin. She was quite beautiful, but she looked like she was not to be trifled with. When the girls in the class saw this scene, they secretly glanced at the boys behind them. After the boys received the order, they immediately slipped away from the back door. There was still some time before class. The 2 junior high school students stood at the door and did not leave. They looked at Aju with heavy eyes. Yang Qin's eyes were red the whole time, as if she was not responsible for these things. She was completely wronged. I say, little brat, are you really not going to say a single word? The girl sneered. We're afraid of Bai Zhen, not you. Look, when your brother is gone, how are we going to deal with you? I hate you brats the most. The 2 of them were originally fine, but they were messed up by you. Do you know how much Yang Qin likes Bai Zhen? You don't even know how to make a sound. Is there really something wrong with your brain? I also think there's something wrong with her brain. Didn't you hear what she said just now? She actually called us benefactors. Another girl laughed with disdain. What's wrong with him? Could it be that the Bai family brought in a little retard? Little Aju really didn't like to talk nonsense with others. The child had not made a move because he was worried about damaging the office supplies in the classroom. But the other party kept on talking, making her really angry. Woolly Buddha had said that when one couldn't bear it anymore, There was no need to bear it anymore. Little Adu did not stop either. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, she made a move. Her small fist carried the wind and directly hit a female student in the stomach. When the other tall girl saw this, she immediately shouted, "You damned child, I didn't hit you, but you still want to take a mile when I give you an inch." As she shouted like this, she was about to pick up little Adu. On the other side, Bai Jun, who had just changed classes, was being followed by Li Hailu. Little gangster Li was still apologizing very sincerely. "This is my fault. I shouldn't have taken them to the Bai family. I really didn't think so much at that time. I just saw that Yang Qin usually played with us in the game. Her skills were not bad, and she didn't directly attract you like other girls. I thought she was harmless, but I didn't expect her to have so many thoughts. This time, it's my fault for wanting to chase after a girl. I apologize. Don't change your class. If you change your class, whose homework should I copy? I changed classes because I wanted to be closer to little Adu." Bai Jun turned around and looked at him slowly. "As for the homework, you can think of a way yourself." Li Hailu grabbed Bai Jun's hand. "Brother, this matter is easy to discuss. It's just that little Adu wasn't angry with me last time, right? Even if she was angry with me. What does it have to do with you?" Bai Jun's voice was very indifferent. Li Hailu completely understood Master Bai's possessiveness. Yes. You are little Adu's brother. I was picked up. I was just afraid that the child would be affected. If little Adu was a little sad, I, Li Hailu, would be the first to make them unhappy. Damn it, you want to use me as a gun? Alright, Adu and I are fine." Bai Jun put down his school bag. "You should be more careful in the future. After all, we came from the courtyard. Some people and some things should be considered by themselves." Although Li Hailu was not as smart as Xiao Lin, he still had a beast-like intuition. He knew very well what Bai Jun was referring to. In their circle, the people they nurtured were either flashy or low-key. Especially for those who took the initiative to befriend them, they had to understand the other party's character. That way, they wouldn't be taken advantage of. There were too many temptations around them, so they were destined to know more than those who came from ordinary families. He had seen some brothers in high school who had already started to go to nightclubs. Last time, someone who wanted to ask his family for help had actually given him that kind of card. Did he, Li Hailu, look like a person who would forget his friends when he saw women? Chen-ph. He would not be like that. Why don't I change classes too? I think there are fewer girls in this class. It's quiet. Li Hailu seemed to have suddenly grown up. He turned his head and said to Bai Jun. Bai Jun was about to speak when he saw two third-grade primary school students running over with sweat all over their faces. Even their breathing was heavy. Brother Bai, we finally found you." Bai Jun recognized that these two boys were Adu's classmates. He immediately frowned. "What's wrong? 3 girls from your junior high school came and surrounded little Adu. One of the girls seems to be your girlfriend, Brother Bai. They insisted that little Adu come over to find Brother Bai and speak up for that person. Little Adu didn't agree, so they..." Before the little boy could finish speaking, Li Hailu heard a loud bang in his ear. The stool in front of him was kicked out by someone. Chapter 1155. When he looked up again, he saw that Bai Jun had already rushed out of the classroom. His tall and straight back was mixed with an anger that was difficult to ignore. Li Hailu felt that things were bad. When Bai Jun was angry, he was really a player who could beat people to a pulp. Shouldn't he inform Xiao Lin? But damn it, was there something wrong with Yang Qin's little girl? Was she so bored that she went to find trouble with little Adu? Not only would Bai Jun get angry, but Li Hailu himself was also angry. In the end, his anger defeated his rationality. Li Hailu rolled up his sleeves and rushed out like a bullet like Bai Jun. At the entrance of the 3rd years, the tall girl who made a move felt her outstretched arm being pulled by someone. Then, there was a creak. It was as if something had broken. In an instant, a heart-wrenching pain spread from her arm to her entire body. The tall girl was a sports student. She originally thought that she could let the child know how powerful she was by casually making a move. Yang Qin's goal was the same. She brought these two people here to make little Aju afraid. She had never thought of making a move on little Aju. After all, she was Bai Zhen's sister, so she did not dare to do anything to little Aju. What she wanted was for little Aju to see so many grown-up students like them and know what rules were. However, Yang Qin never expected that the child would actually beat someone up without saying anything. The tall girl was in so much pain that her face was pale. She wanted to shake the little girl off, but the little girl was as heavy as 1,000 pieces of gold. Not to mention shaking her off, she could not even lift her up. She could be considered a tyrant in school. After all, no one dared to provoke the sports students. But today, she actually fell into the hands of a child. The most common way for girls to fight was to pull hair and scratch blindly without any pattern. In school, those people who formed gangs always liked to do this. In little Aju's eyes, these moves were simply not moves. With a small flying kick, she completely crippled the tall girl. The third-year students were dumbfounded by what they saw. Although they had always known that their little class belle had boyfriend power and was stronger than the boys, she could still hold on when others came to find trouble with her. But they had never known that the little class belle actually knew kung fu. When little Aju saw that the girl had fallen, she ran over and dragged the tall girl out of the room. The students didn't understand. Wait, class belle, where are you going? Little Aju raised her little face and said very seriously, "It's almost time for class to start. I want to drag her a little further away so that the teacher can't see us." The students. Destroy the evidence. To be honest, little class belle, after you beat people up in the temple, did you also deal with them like this? Too bad. Little Aju was very strong. She dragged one with her left hand and one with her right hand. It was as if she was dragging a sack instead of a person. Back then, little Aju had dragged her martial nephews along like this in the temple. Therefore, little Aju was good at dragging people along. The tall man's voice was hoarse. "We are not only your brother's friends, but Yang Qin is also your brother's girlfriend. How could you treat us like this? Do you think we don't dare to touch you? How many times have I said it? Little brother doesn't have a girlfriend." Little Aju let go halfway and squatted down. She frowned and reasoned with the tall girl. "In the future, you are not allowed to say that a girl is little brother's girlfriend. If you do, he will break the precepts. If he breaks the precepts, he won't be fated with Buddha. I want to help Buddha Wooly keep an eye on little brother. If any of you dare to approach little brother in the future, I will break your legs." Hearing this, the third-year students all trembled. Little class belle can't be serious, right? When has little class belle ever been fake? Only now do I realize how gentle little class belle was to me in the past. Is it really possible to break someone's legs? What's impossible about little class belle? She's only 6 years old. This has nothing to do with age. Do you remember the last time you provoked her and she pushed you away with one hand? Don't mention that dark history. You won't be able to find a girl. The child acted as if she did not hear the discussions around her. After she finished speaking, she continued to drag the two people out. There was a little white cat on her head, and the cat's tail wagged behind her head. "Little class belle, where are you dragging them?" Someone asked in a hurry. The main reason was that one of them had a broken arm. Being dragged like this was really a fate worse than death. The child said without turning her head, "Downstairs in the garbage dump." The third years were speechless. When Bai Zhen ran over, little Aju had not yet reached the stairs. The child was standing in the corridor and dragging people. Bai Zhen knew that little Aju had always liked to drag people who had been beaten up. However, he did not care about these things anymore. As soon as he reached the place, he picked up the child. He held her small face with his fingers and looked left and right. There was a red mark that was neither deep nor shallow on her chin. If one did not pay attention, one would not be able to see it at all. Master Bai was immediately furious. He immediately pulled the tall girl up from the ground. "You did it." That handsome face emitted a chilling aura. The tall girl could not help but shiver. She had never seen Baizhan angry before. After all, she had a good upbringing. But now, she really regretted coming here. Jongmina, I don't hit women, but you remember this. Don't you like to bully people in groups? I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to be bullied. At that time, the tall girl did not understand the meaning of Baizhan's words. After she recuperated and entered the sports field again, the few people on the same team would always intentionally or unintentionally hit her with a basketball. Once she resisted, they would all surround her. This was called bullying. Baizhan had stayed in the temple for a year, but he had not really gotten into any relationships. When he did things, there was only one word to describe it, and that was ruthless. Li Hailu was most afraid of this. He hurriedly rushed over and saw Baizhan reach out and throw Jongmina aside. Then, he approached Yang Qin. Yang Qin was still crying and said, Baizhan, why are you like this? Why are you so fierce to us without asking clearly? Baizhan sneered. Ask clearly? I really don't know what happened. I only know that my sister is in class. You came to find trouble with me. What else do I need to ask? Master Bai, the teacher is here. Li Hailu whispered behind his ear. Baizhan's face was expressionless. Yang Qin and Jongmina also saw the teacher's figure in the distance. One after another, they started to cry. They really looked like they had suffered a great grievance. Chapter 1156. In fact, it wasn't just the teachers. Even the school leaders had come. The dean first saw Yang Qin cry, then he looked at Baizhan, who was standing beside her with a cold face. He immediately felt that the situation was a little difficult to handle. Bring her to the office first, the dean said to the third-grade teacher. The director of teaching said as he turned to the head teacher of the third grade. Let the children go back to class. You can come back after they're done. Such a thing had never happened in City No. 1 high school before. Class started, and there were still students making a ruckus outside. Inform the parents of these students and ask them to come to school. After the dean finished his instructions, he rubbed his forehead and looked at Yang Qin, who was still crying. His mind was in a mess. The head teacher of the third grade listened to the children in her class talk about what had happened. She basically knew what was going on. Hearing that the little darling in her class had been bullied, the head teacher was unhappy. Ever since she took over this class, the children in the class had been especially obedient. Those who were not obedient had also been tamed by little Ajiu. Usually, the children were very sensible. Although she liked to use force. However, she would only make a move when others provoked her. For the rest of the time, she ate when she was told to eat, did homework when she was told to do, and did not make a ruckus in class. This was already very rare for a 6-year-old child. Why did the first-grade students come to her class? She had to ask clearly about this matter. The head teacher was also a hot-blooded person. After hearing the children's chatter, she immediately turned around and left the classroom. No one could bully her students. In the dean's office, there were a total of 5 students sitting there. Jongmina was sent to the school doctor for emergency treatment. Yang Qin and another girl were sitting in their seats and crying. Their hair was still stained with dust, and they were in a very sorry state. Li Hailu was also sitting there, looking sloppy. Baizhan was holding the child, and little Ajiu was sitting in Baizhan's arms obediently. She turned her head to look at Li Hailu. Li Hailu had just made a face at her. The office door was pushed open. It was Jongmina's mother. She came the fastest, and there was an unconcealable anger on her face. Who did it? Who beat my daughter up like that? Who did it? The Zhong family was a business family and had a good family background. Jongmina's mother had always bought whatever her daughter wanted. What he usually taught his daughter was that if something happened, it would be fine as long as they could settle it with money. She knew her daughter very well. She was beautiful and had a good figure. She was also very popular in school. After receiving the news that her daughter had been beaten, she did not even listen to the teacher's words and rushed over. The teaching director stood beside her and said patiently, "Madam, please listen to my explanation first. This is what happened." "I don't care what happened." Jongmina's mother interrupted the dean with a sharp voice. Who did this? Come out now. Little Aju did not wait for others to react. She immediately jumped out of Baizhan's arms. With the little white cat on her head, she said with her eyes wide open, I beat him up. Jongmina's mother turned around abruptly. Just as she was about to get angry, her throat was blocked. This, such a young child. How could her daughter not even be able to beat a child? Jongmina's mother did not know what to say. She could only raise her head and look at Baizhan, who was behind little Aju. You did it, right? Why was it so difficult to communicate with this person? She had already said that she was the one who beat her up. Why did she have to look for little brother? Little Aju frowned and repeated seriously, I beat her up. It has nothing to do with little brother. Aju. Then, he slowly stood up and looked at Jongmina's mother. The aura he exuded did not match his age at all. Madam, since you don't care about the process, then wait for the lawyer's letter on behalf of your daughter. Your daughter colluded with her classmates to blackmail and kidnap my sister. This is campus violence, and it is also a crime. You seem to be very surprised. It's useless for you to look at our director. Jongmina's mother did not expect that a young man would suddenly come up and talk about the law with her. She was completely dumbfounded. Not to mention that Jongmina's mother was a little overwhelmed. Even the director of the teaching office and Li Hailu were surprised by Baizhan's words. Especially Li Hailu, he looked at his master in shock. Why didn't he know that Baizhan had this idea? No wonder he was so obedient just now and came with the teachers. Even the Bai family's power was useless. To be able to come up with such an excuse, their master Bai was really cool. What blackmail and kidnapping? The female student who had been crying beside him was stunned. We didn't. We just wanted to warn your sister to stay away from you. When Baizhan heard this, his smile became even colder. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to tell my sister to stay away from me? When the director of the teaching office heard the female student's words, he also felt that it was funny. This child's thoughts were really strange. What kind of logic was this? No wonder Baizhan was angry. However, the female student did not think that she was wrong and looked at Yang Qin. Yang Qin signaled her not to say anything else. However, there were adults present. The eye contact between these junior high school students could not escape the eyes of others at all. Baizhan's voice was still very calm. Now the problem is very clear. They are the ones who are looking for trouble. What do you mean by looking for trouble? A crisp voice rang out from the door. It was filled with arrogance and coldness. Little friend, don't you think you're exaggerating a little too much? Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a woman standing in the backlight. She was wearing an open-necked white suit and a pair of oversized sunglasses. There were two people standing on her left and right. They looked like her assistants. Their auras were very strong. The person who came was Yang Qin's mother. Her name was Ruan Xin, and she was a relatively famous female celebrity in the industry. Because she had acted in a few television dramas, she did have some fans. The director of the teaching office had a headache because of this point. Yang Qin's mother's identity was there. If this matter was not handled well, Ruan Xin's Weibo post would be unimaginable what kind of impact it would have. This was because the influence of celebrities was too strong. Even if the other party was in the wrong, no one could predict what the public opinion would become in the end. Forced to think, the director of the teaching office smiled and went up to her. Ms. Ruan, please take a seat first. Let's hear what's going on before we deal with it. Chapter 1157. I know my daughter's personality the best. Ruan Xin took off her glasses and blew on them. She also smiled and said, she's not a child who takes the initiative to cause trouble. Someone must have lied. Yang Qin was beaten up, and this matter won't be over. Please investigate carefully and give me an explanation. I'm really busy here. I still have a scene to shoot in a while, so I'll take Yang Qin away first. The head teacher of the 3rd grade heard this sentence as soon as she arrived. She was so angry that she couldn't help but say, Ms. Ruan, are you saying that all the students in my class are lying? Little Aju is the youngest student in our class. Ms. Rwan, as you can see, she is only 6 years old. A 6-year-old child, if no one provoked her, she would only obediently stay in the classroom. Your daughter brought 2 senior students to our 3rd grade, which is not in accordance with the school rules. Teacher, your student hit someone. You're also responsible for it. Rwan Shin's expression turned cold. You are the head teacher who can't control your own class. Shouldn't you first reflect on yourself before speaking? The head teacher had never seen such a person who could distort the truth like this. She was so angry that her fingers were clenched tightly. Rwan Shin turned her head and glanced at little Aju. Besides, just because she's young doesn't mean that she's a good person. Who raised such a child with such a bad upbringing? Hearing this woman mention Aju, Master Lee was unhappy. His eyes were burning with anger. Rwan Shin looked extremely elegant. She wanted to leave with Yang Qin. Bai Zhen blocked her way. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he was extremely cold. Since Ms. Rwan wants to talk about education, then I will have a good chat with Ms. Rwan. I have nothing to do with your daughter, and I have never admitted that she is my girlfriend. Anyone with a little face would not spread such rumors in school. Not only did they say that I have a close relationship with her, but they even found my sister and warned her to stay away from me. So this is how a popular actress teaches her daughter. It can be considered an eye-opener for me. However, there is one thing that Ms. Rwan and I have the same idea. This matter will not be over. Yang Qin saw that Bai Zhen had changed, so she quickly pulled Bai Zhen's hand. Bai Zhen, that's not what my mother meant. Besides, your sister is too clingy to you, that's why I... Swish. Bai Zhen shook off her hand. There was only a thick chill on his thin lips. Now that he had explained the situation, everyone present knew what had happened. Rwan Shin was completely embarrassed. She had never thought that her daughter would be the one to throw herself at him. She could feel the gazes around her. For a celebrity, she simply couldn't stand ordinary people looking at her as if she was a joke. Rwan Shin really couldn't control her temper anymore. She said to the assistant beside her, "What are you waiting for? Bring Yang Qin along. Let's go." When the 2 assistants heard the whole story, they were indeed stunned. When they came to their senses, they immediately took Yang Qin away. Rwan Shin, on the other hand, turned around and glanced at Bai Zhen. There was a subtle warning in her words. Little friend, there are some things that you can't say carelessly. No matter what, you're the ones who beat people up. This can't be changed. If you want to file a lawsuit, you can directly send a lawyer's letter to the Yang family and see what the court will decide. After saying this, Rwan Shin flipped her long hair and left. Master Lee was so angry that he laughed. Isn't she just saying that because she thinks that Yang is in the judicial department? Master Bai, this female celebrity really doesn't know you. It's good that her husband knows me. Bai Zhen was not in a hurry. He reached out and picked up the child with the small melon seeds in her mouth. He said to the 2 directors, "Thank you for defending Aju just now." The director of the teaching office did not know what to say. He was only worried that the matter would continue to cause trouble. However, Master Lee knew that if Bai Zhen said that it would not end, then it would really not end. In addition to that female celebrity's attitude, this matter would probably be troublesome. Most importantly, there was a scar on Aju's face. This was probably what Bai Zhen could not tolerate the most. For the afternoon class, Yang Qin's mother asked the assistant to apply for leave for her daughter. When Rwan Shin came to school, she could indeed meet many people who knew her. The main reason was that she was currently participating in a variety show outside the house. That show was very popular in the country and was also very popular. Therefore, there were naturally more people who were fans of her. She maintained the elegance and glamour of a celebrity. When she saw anyone, she would not smile and wave her hand. It was not until she got into the nanny van that Rwan Shin took off the sunglasses on her face. Her face was full of anger. Yang Qin was still crying in the car. Her shoulders were twitching. It was not easy for Rwan Shin to get pregnant. She simply gave her daughter whatever she wanted. Now that she saw Yang Qin like this, the anger in her heart could not be suppressed anymore. She tilted her head and said to the 2 assistants, Go and ask who the boy who dared to talk to me like that in the office just now is. Ask the lawyer to make a lawyer's letter and send it directly to his house. My daughter is not someone they can bully just because they want to." When Yang Qin heard that her mother was going to fall out with Bai Zhan, she was the first to object. "Mom, why do you want a lawyer's letter? Bai Zhan is not wrong. The one who is wrong is that sister of his. She is not his biological child to begin with, but she insisted on sticking to Bai Zhan. Bai Zhan played well with me before, and it was all because of her." The assistant listened silently at the side and did not say anything. The little boy in the office had already made it very clear. His attitude towards Yang Qin was also full of disgust. How could he play well with Yang Qin? They were indeed used to seeing celebrities in this circle who inverted black and white, but this was the first time they had seen someone who liked to make up groundless things at such a young age. No wonder that good-looking boy hated this little miss so much. The two assistants looked at each other and did not say anything. After all, although Ruanxin always looked like a caring and generous person in front of outsiders, in private, she was very harsh when she treated her assistants. It was just like how she always liked to eat vegetarian and pray to Buddha, but her heart was not kind. Okay. Mommy won't touch that boy." Ruanxin coaxed her daughter. "It's true that he wasn't the one who hit her. No matter how young his sister is, it's her fault that she beat her up so badly." When Yang Qin heard her mother's words, she still couldn't stop crying. "I don't want to see her in school again. Tell her to get lost. Don't cry. You're crying so much that Mommy's heart hurts." Ruanxin reached out and carried Yang Qin in. She patted her back. "Mommy will definitely settle this matter for you." Yang Qin lay in her mother's arms and felt very wronged. "I want Bai Zhan to be my boyfriend. Mom, I've already said it. Now that things have turned out like this, how can I still go to school? Everyone will definitely think that I'm bragging. Tell Bai Zhan for me that I don't have to make him apologize. As long as he's with me, we won't make things difficult for his sister. We'll let his sister stay in school." Chapter 1158. Ruanxin's two assistants were sitting in the driver's seat and the other in the passenger's seat. When they heard these words, they couldn't help but shake their heads. This idea was really strange. However, Ruanxin felt that her daughter's request was not too much. The other party was wrong to begin with. If her daughter didn't like him, then no matter how outstanding his appearance was, he wouldn't be worthy of her daughter. "Little Qin, I won't care what you want to do. However, you're too young now. You have to be careful when you're in a relationship. Don't let others catch you." Ruanxin smiled faintly and pinched her nose. "I'm a celebrity. You don't know why some people are so nice to you. However, those children in number 1 high school should be from good families. It's mainly because of your father. Our Yang family is not something that anyone can climb up just because they want to." Yang Qin wiped her tears. "I know. The Bai family is also very rich. Just look at Bai Zhan and you'll know. He's different from all the boys in our class. The teachers all like him very much." Ruanxin smiled and said, "Okay, I'll listen to little Qin. I'll get someone to do it immediately." Ruanxin thought that no matter how rich the Bai family was, they could not compare to the Yang family's connections. There was no need for her to tell her husband such a small matter. She got the Bai family's contact information from the school and directly called them. The person who answered the phone was none other than Chief Bai. Originally, he was not supposed to answer this call. Under normal circumstances, Auntie Wang was there. However, today, Chief Bai suddenly received a notice from the school saying that Bai Zhan had gotten into a fight in the school, so he returned to the courtyard. When the school director talked about this matter, his attitude had always been very low. The Bai family had always kept a low profile, and Bai Zhan did not clearly state his identity when he entered the school. However, since it was arranged by the Xiao family, the school director immediately thought that the other party's background was not simple. Looking at the usual interaction between the young master of the Xiao family and Bai Zhan, he was even more certain of this point. She originally thought that the other party was a second-generation official. When Chief Bai received the call, she finally figured it out. It turned out that Bai Zhan had a red background. Ruanshin did not know about this at all. The moment she came up, she was very rude to the old man. After telling him the request, she even asked the old man to consider it carefully. She said that it was just a quarrel between children. As a parent, he had to be reasonable and not make things too serious. Old Master Bai had been in power for so long, but he had never heard such a funny joke. Then tell me, what are your conditions? After saying this, Elder Bai pressed the speaker button. Bai Zhen was sitting opposite Old Master Bai and was playing chess with him. Hearing the arrogant tone on the other side, the youth's eyes turned cold. He directly turned on his phone and recorded the other party's words without missing a word. Then, he handed it to Adjutant Zhong. Send this recording to Yang Zhenghua. Tell him that my grandfather wants to ask him what the Bai family did wrong to be threatened by the Yang family. At the same time, tell him that the Bai family has always strictly prohibited marriage and girlfriends. Some third-rate actresses who rely on sleeping with others want to enter the Bai family. Not to mention my grandfather, he can't even get past me. Also, remember to ask Yang Zhenghua if he's in charge of the judiciary. Where did he put my Uncle Tang? Adjutant Zhong looked at the phone in his palm and felt that his young master's actions were so cool that he had no friends. Old Chief Bai laughed heartily. Just do as my grandson says. Go ahead. Yes. Adjutant Zhong saluted. Chief Bai saw that Bai Zhen's face was still cold, so he asked tentatively, the news I received was that Adju beat someone up. Shouldn't be beaten up. Bai Zhen's eyes were cold. It's only right to beat them up. Chief Bai put down the teacup. Bai Zhen, grandfather has said before that your temper is not good. You are too protective of the child. Bai Zhen paused and said indifferently, my temper is indeed not good, but grandfather, there's one thing you're wrong about. Of course, I have to protect my child. Chief Bai smiled. It's good to have someone who can protect you. It seems that you've already walked out of that plane crash. Bai Zhen did not say anything. Chief Bai stood up and reached out to touch Bai Zhen's head. When he thought of his proudest son, his eyes were a little red. What happened back then was not your fault. Everyone has their own fate. Your father definitely doesn't want to see you like before. Now that little Adju is with you, grandfather can be at ease when I'm guarding outside. Thank you, grandfather. Bai Zhen lowered his eyes. I know what to do as a member of the Bai family. What you're worried about won't happen. I will protect the Bai family well and won't let my temper destroy it. Chief Bai was really gratified. He nodded. Just as he turned around, he saw a little girl in pajamas holding a round watermelon and looking at them at the door. Chief Bai smiled. Our little Adju is really getting cuter and cuter. Where did you get these pajamas? Little brother bought it for me. Little Adju ran over and hugged the big watermelon. Grandfather, eat the watermelon. I secretly hid this in the closet in my room. Auntie Wang didn't even know. Old Chief Bai laughed and pointed at her. You little foodie. However, the Bai family did love to eat watermelon. Old Master Bai was even more so. When they were young, they could laugh for several days after eating a mouthful of watermelon. This was perhaps the habit of several generations of soldiers. No matter how rich they were still most reluctant to part with the bitter days back then. The Bai family's upbringing had always been simple and generous. Therefore, the children they raised were not like other children at all. Even though they were elegant, their lives were very simple. The three of them cut an iced watermelon and ate it around the table. It was a very happy thing. The joy of a family was just that. Little Adju still had a cat on her head. After handing the watermelon to Chief Bai, she handed her own piece to Bai Zhen, meaning that she wanted Bai Zhen to feed her. Bai Zhen held it for her with a faint smile. After talking to Chief Bai for a while, he fed little Adju a bite. Little Adju's eating made people have an appetite. Her cheeks were puffed up, and her eyes were big. Chief Bai looked at this scene thoughtfully. Although the Bai family's upbringing was to dote on the children, wasn't his grandsons doting too much? Bai Zhen noticed Chief Bai's gaze and raised his eyebrows. Grandfather, what's wrong? Continue eating the watermelon. The children were still young. He must be thinking too much. Anyway, His mission for this period of time had ended. He should not be transferred out again this month, so he could observe more closely. Chapter 1159. After Old Master Bai made up his mind, he began to call his old friends in the courtyard. He needed help to keep an eye on things with him. Moreover, he and Old Man Xiao had yet to decide the winner. The Xiao family did not have a granddaughter, but they had 3 brats. When the time came, Old Man Xiao would prick him again, and he would carry Ajiu out. That's right, Old Master Bai was a fanatic who showed off his granddaughter. When the Li and Xiao families received Old Master Bai's call, they rushed over. Who asked Old Master Bai to say that there was something fun to watch? They brought their grandsons along as well. After all, they were all playing together. When Master Li heard that his grandfather was going to bring him to the Bai family, he was punished by his father to stand, but he instantly perked up. He put away his toy pistol and carried his school bag. He threw a sentence to his father, saying that he was not coming back to sleep, and left. Master Li's father was so angry that he chased him all the way. His father's only wish now was not world peace, but to stuff Master Li into his mother's stomach and let him be reborn. When the 3 old men met, they would either discuss serious matters or compete with each other. Others were competing to see who was more powerful, but these 3 were basically competing to see who could give birth to more children. In the past, Old Master Bai was always lagging behind by a lot. Now that Old Master Bai had a granddaughter, he was the absolute winner. The Xiao and Li families were looking forward to having a granddaughter, but it was also strange. They gave birth to a brat, and every one of them had a penis. They had always believed in one sentence, which was that boys had to be raised crudely. Therefore, it was not easy for Bai Zhen to grow up to be so polite. Xiao Lin had his mother to hold him back, so he was not too rough. The roughest one was Master Li. When they saw Bai Zhen, the children ran upstairs for a while, allowing the 3 grandfathers to pinch them. As soon as they entered the room, Master Li asked, "How's the Yang family? What's with Grandpa Bai's attitude? Do you think it's not good to touch them now?" Xiao Lin was not there at that time, but he heard about the situation. "Is there something wrong with Yang Qin's brain? There's no one else who can be so infatuated. She just feels that little Ajiu is always following Master Bai, so she feels unbalanced. If the Yang family is gone, she should be balanced." Bai Zhen put down the English book in his hand and threw the phone in his hand to his 2 friends. "What is this? Recording?" Xiao Lin tilted his head to open the thing and heard the threat from the Yang family. Little gangster Li had an expression of disbelief on his face. Grandpa Bai answered the phone. "Yes." The corners of Bai Zhen's mouth curled up. "I asked Vice Commander Zhong to send the same recording directly to the Yang family. Didn't the other party want to compete with their background? Then I'll compete with him." "Brilliant. This move of yours is really brilliant." After what Master Bai did the Yang family still have a way out? Not to mention the Tang family, even the judicial department would want to talk to Miss Yang after hearing this recording. Wasn't it obvious that he wanted to use his status to suppress others? If Mr. Yang heard this recording, he would definitely regret marrying such an unlucky wife. Li Hailu originally thought that Bai Zhen's personality had become gentler in the past year. He did not expect that Bai Zhen was even more ruthless than before. Moreover, this time, he was not as ruthless as he was back then. Not only could he directly take a person's life, but he could also not cause the slightest bit of trouble. Xiao Lin listened from the side and smiled. If it were him, he would not have thought that Bai Zhen would be so thorough. However, Xiao Lin was most concerned about the child. "Is Ajiu okay?" "She's fine." Ajiu had been listening to the few people behind the door. Now that she heard her name, she jumped out. Her lotus root-like little hands patted her small belly. It was probably because she had eaten too much watermelon. Her small belly was bulging, but her face was as serious as ever. "Brother Xiao Lin, don't worry. They can't beat me." Xiao Lin was indeed relieved about this because even Xiao Lin himself might not be able to beat Ajiu. "Brother Xiao Lin brought you a little bean. It was freshly steamed by our auntie." Ajiu's eyes lit up when she heard about food. However, Bai Zhan blocked Xiao Lin's hand. She just finished eating watermelon and her stomach is still full. If she eats more, she won't be able to digest it at night. As he said that, he turned the lunchbox in Xiao Lin's hand and pressed it into little gangster Li's palm. Me. Li Hailu really wanted to say that he had just had dinner too, okay? Besides, everyone in the villa knew about Aju's appetite. Even if you fed her 2 big steamed buns now, she wouldn't have indigestion, let alone 2 little ones. Li Hailu said. Eat. Bai Zhan only had one word. Little gangster Li no longer had any doubts. He put a bean in his mouth. Damn it, he hated to eat things with bean paste filling the most. Bai Zhan, you're good. Xiao Lin raised his head and glanced at the happy little gangster Li. He simply said, Bai Zhan, I found that you won't let me give Aju anything I've given her recently. Bai Zhan did not deny it. He handed him a ballpoint pen made of bamboo in his hand. Your intuition is very right, so don't give it to me anymore. Grandpa brought it back from Yunnan. It's suitable for you to use. Xiao Lin accepted it and could not put it down. Not bad. I knew you liked it. Bai Zhan raised his chin. The youth's smile was very beautiful. Little gangster Li was jealous. Why don't I have a share? What do you need a pen for? Bai Zhan said as he opened his notebook. Some time ago, didn't you always want equipment in the game? I made a set for you. Little gangster Li was so moved that he cried. He hugged Bai Zhan and called him his brother. Little Aju pushed him to the side forcefully. Beat the mud away. Little brother will feel hot. Little gangster Li really did not want to admit that his martial strength was not as good as a 6-year-old child's. He could only swallow the last bean with tears in his eyes. Xiao Lin held a pen in his hand and watched this scene with a smile. The Xiao family's situation was very complicated. The people they met were also some social events. Ever since Xiao Lin could remember, his grandfather had told him that no matter what, the Xiao, Li, and Bai families had to be tightly tied together. At that time, he did not understand the meaning of this sentence. His thoughts were more gloomy than the average person's. To be honest, he liked to think of many things in a bad way. To put it nicely, this was called preparing for a rainy day and being good at scheming. To put it bluntly, he was only a junior high school student now. With such a sinister personality, it was very difficult to make friends. His mother was an educator. No matter how magnanimous she was, she would still teach him how to deal with people. For some things, once they were exchanged for equivalent value, they would appear to be fake. When he was 3 years old, he moved back from Hainan with his grandfather and moved into the courtyard. Originally, according to his understanding of the future, he would definitely look at the other party's identity when he made friends. He did not need the other party's help, but he had to be wary of others. However, when he met Bai Zhan and Hai Lu, everything changed. Chapter 1160. The 3 of them grew up together. From the time they were wearing diapers, they would fight over a toy. However, if the children in the other courtyards dared to bully him, Bai Zhan and Hai Lu would be the first to object. Xiao Lin still remembered that year when Hai Lu fell into the water. At that time, he was so scared that his hands and feet were numb. The children around him had all run away, but Bai Zhan refused to leave. No matter what, he had to save Hai Lu. In the end, he had a fever for 2 whole days. The first thing Bai Zhan did when he opened his eyes was to make sure that he and Hai Lu were fine. At that moment, Xiao Lin recognized that these 2 people were his brothers for life. Moreover, the feeling of being remembered like this was always good. Xiao Lin lowered his eyes and turned the bamboo pen in his hand. He could not hide his happiness. The 3 old men watched from the outside, full of joy and relief. What could make them happier than the harmony between their children and grandchildren? In the future, the children still had a long way to go. Only by helping each other like this could they be at ease. Among them, only old Master Li was the most careless. Compared to the other 2, not only was his son not long, but he was also confused the entire time. When the time came, how could he be at ease leaving his grandson in the army? Old Master Li gritted his teeth and turned his head to ask, Old Bai, when do you plan to send your son away? Let's talk about it after he graduates from high school. Old Master Bai lowered his voice and gestured for them to go downstairs. Little Aju is still young. If Bai Zhen leaves, who will take care of her? Although it's a little late to join the army at the age of 18, Bai Zhen should be able to keep up. Old Master Li nodded. That's fine too. The main thing is to arrange for Bai Zhen while we old bones are still in position. Don't worry, the two of you. Can't you see that little Zhen is a child? He has the ability to lead. Old Master Xiao stroked his beard and said, these three children are all sensible. Although Hai Lu is a little mischievous, he knows that our Xiao Lin is also a taciturn person. Sometimes, I don't even know what my grandson is thinking. Let's wait and see what they want to do and what they are doing. Vice Commander Zhong stood at the side and listened to the conversation between the three big shots. If anyone else heard this, they would definitely be very shocked. Because it was very obvious that this was nothing more than the intention of appointing a successor. There was only one young master in the Bai family. However, the Xiao family was different from the Li family. They had 3 sons, not to mention their future grandsons. However, the 2 of them had already decided on their successors. In other words, the 3 children upstairs would all be extraordinary in the future. Deputy Zhong raised his head and glanced upstairs. He tried his best to calm himself down. However, Ruan Xin and her daughter were still waiting for Bai Zhen to give in. Ruan Xin first took Yang Qin shopping, then took her to the recording studio. She did whatever she wanted. She was confident that when she returned home, she would receive an apology letter from the Bai family. Ruan Xin's husband, Yang Zhanghua, was still busy at work. He didn't expect to see someone from the Bai family. Just as he was about to greet him, the other party raised his hand to stop him. He was dressed in a military uniform. Director Yang, our old master wants you to listen to this. As he spoke, the man clicked on the recording on his phone. The more Yang Zhanghua listened, the paler his face became. In the end, there was no trace of blood on his lips. He hurriedly said, Deputy, is there a misunderstanding? The call was personally picked up by Chief Bai. The recording is also very clear. The girl that the noble lady is talking about is the young lady of the Bai family. The boy that your daughter wants is young Master Bai Zhen. Chief Yang has seen him before. This recording was sent to me by young Master Bai Zhen. Young Master still has a copy. I'm not sure who he will send it to. Chief Yang, keep this copy and listen to it properly. Yang Zhanghua's hand trembled so much that he couldn't hold the phone at all. His chest was filled with anger, and there was also an indescribable fear. If such a recording was submitted, even if the Bai family didn't have it, he would definitely be punished. His wife could have provoked anyone, but why did she have to provoke the Bai family? Yang Zhanghua was so angry that he didn't care about having dinner with the other leaders at night. He called Ruan Xin in a very bad tone. Where are you? Tell me immediately. Ruan Xin was stunned by the roar. Where did you eat? Why are you so angry? I asked you to tell me where you are. Ruan Xin listened to Yang Zhanghua's roar on the other end of the phone, and her heart was beating like a drum. After telling her the location, she immediately asked her assistant to hurry home. Yang Qin hadn't had enough fun yet. Mom, didn't we say that we were eating outside today? Your father is angry. I don't know why, but let's go home first. Ruan Xin was anxious now. All these years, she had a good grasp of Yang Zhanghua's temper. Yang Zhanghua had never been angry with her like today. What was going on? After all, Ruan Xin was in the entertainment industry. Her sense of smell was always more sensitive than that of ordinary people. Her intuition told her that something had happened. However, she didn't know which part of the process had gone wrong, so she could only wait anxiously at home. As soon as Yang Zhanghua saw Ruan Xin, he threw the phone fiercely at her face. Listen to yourself, listen to what you said. Ruan Xin was still smiling. Yang Qin was sitting next to her mother. She was already a junior high school student, so of course, she had her own thoughts. Dad, what are you doing to my mother? Shut up. Yang Zhanghua turned around. I haven't said anything about you yet. Who taught you to throw yourself at a boy when you see one? You even threatened him and said that as long as he was your boyfriend, You would forgive his sister. Is this what I usually teach you? All the face of our Yang family has been lost by you and your mother. I just like Bai Zhen. Is that wrong? Yang Qin roared. How am I throwing myself at him? I was openly liking her. Yang Zhengguo was so angry that he felt dizzy. Only when two people are in love with each other is called liking. He has already rejected you so obviously, and you still want to go up to him. If this isn't throwing yourself at him, then what is? It's fine if that's the case, but you even went to find trouble with his sister. Do you know who you've offended? Isn't it just the Bai family? I know that they're very rich. China has also said a thing or two. Ruanxin pulled her daughter away and softened her tone. So what if they're rich? It's not like our family doesn't have money. Moreover, we still have people. Yang Zhengguo was so angry that his teeth hurt. You're comparing your connections with the Bai family? Is there something wrong with your brain? That's not an ordinary rich family at all. That's the Bai family. Do you know how many soldiers old Master Bai has? You're still competing here. Red roots. Ruanxin was shocked and took a step back. She had put in a lot of effort in order to enter this circle, so she naturally knew that the toughest people in this circle were still people with red backgrounds. These people were not people that the Yang family could provoke. Chapter 1161. Yang Zhengguo looked at her. Now you know how to be afraid. Why didn't you think about what would happen to me when you called me? What would happen to me if I were to be sent to the higher-ups? Ruanxin didn't think too much. After all, with the Yang family's power, who would record such a voice? However, she never expected the Bai family to have such a background. Yang Zhengguo seemed to have lost all hope. After sitting down, he rubbed his hair. I'll think of a way to turn things around and use the old master's connections. That was the only way. If he calmed down and dealt with it, he might still have a chance of survival. However, Ruanxin didn't think so. She had to win for herself. Subconsciously, she thought of her own influence. The Bai family wasn't an ordinary person, but it was precisely because the Bai family wasn't an ordinary person that they were even more afraid of the pressure of public opinion. She had also thought about it. If the recording was handed over, someone would definitely investigate her husband. If she wanted Yang Zhengguo to be fine, she had to fight back. Since they could investigate her husband, why couldn't they investigate the Bai family? If such a topic was released, she didn't believe that the netizens wouldn't stand on her side. Mom, what's wrong? Why is Dad's expression so ugly? Yang Qin was still asking Ruanxin. Ruanxin couldn't care less about her daughter anymore. She took her phone and logged into her Weibo account. In fact, these public accounts were usually kept by the company. Sometimes, when an artist posted a message, an assistant would do it for them. However, there were also times when artists could take the initiative to speak up. Ruanxin first thought for a moment, then chose a very dramatic photo to accompany her Weibo post. Then, she started to type. Although the content was vague and tactful, it was because of her content that her fans felt that she had been wronged. They all left comments on her Weibo asking her what was wrong. After Ruanxin saw the results, she immediately posted a second Weibo post. It was obvious that her daughter had been beaten up at school. The person who had beaten her was a second-generation heir. In order to protect her daughter, she had called the other party. Her tone was a little impatient, but it was used as evidence to threaten others. Now, the other party wanted to use their background to try and discipline her husband. The moment this Weibo post was released, the internet exploded. Ruanxin already had 2 marketing accounts in the entertainment industry. When she logged into the marketing account and changed the topic, the news of her daughter being beaten up and her husband being framed immediately spread all over the internet. The first to stand out were of course Ruanxin's fans. Is there any justice in this world? Goddess, don't cry, we will always support you. Find a way to hunt down that guy. What the fuck? He deleted the comments so quickly. Sure enough, he had a powerful background. What about the relevant departments? Such obvious bullying, shouldn't they come out and do something about it? You still want to frame the Yang family? The Yang family is not to be trifled with, okay? I just want to know who is so arrogant after beating someone up. All of a sudden, Weibo was flooded with comments. Master Li was still at Bai Zhen's house. The three children were having a small meeting and did not listen. He received a call and said that someone was looking for news about their class, so he quickly went on Weibo to take a look. They want to hunt down little Ajiu. There should be a special person instigating it. There is already a circle of reporters standing outside the school. They insist that the director and the others announce Ajiu's enrollment information. It's really too scary. Brother Li, you have to stay at home for the next 2 days. Don't go out. Master Li pulled at his hair angrily. This Wan Xin is really tired of living. When Bai Zhen heard his words, he knew that something had happened. He raised his head and looked at him. What's going on? It's probably the public opinion on the internet. Let's go online and take a look first. As Master Li spoke, he opened Weibo with his phone. In fact, Bai Zhen and the others had never used Weibo. This was somewhat not in line with the habits of their age, but they really did not play these things very much. The comments on the internet looked extremely vicious. It had to be said that Wan Xin was indeed very capable in some aspects, such as malicious instigation. Bai Zhen's beautiful eyes turned cold bit by bit as the comments went on. When Xiao Lin raised his head to look at him, there was nothing but killing intent in his eyes. Hailu, there's one thing you're right about. This Wan Xin is indeed tired of living. Ajiu was Bai Zhen's bottom line. Whoever touched his bottom line meant that Bai Zhen had no bottom line in doing things. Xiao Lin, I remember that you have more than 100,000 fans on your game livestream account. Bai Zhen slowly raised his hand and pulled up the backup recording on his phone. Go and tell your fans that I will livestream tonight. Li Hailu exclaimed, are you going to show up? It's such a small matter. Master Bai won't show up for you. Xiao Lin also felt that Li Hailu was right. It was really not worth it to break Bai Zhen's peaceful life for Wan Xin. Other than a few higher-ups in the school, not many people knew Bai Zhen's true background. Once Bai Zhen showed up, the things he would have to face in the future would increase. It was impossible for Bai Zhen not to know about this. However, Bai Zhen still did it. He even told them, Ajiu's matters are never small matters. What Master Bai had decided to do was usually impossible to change under normal circumstances. The public opinion on the internet had already reached its peak. Wan Xin's name instantly occupied the headlines of all the major news outlets. Her personal value had also increased. Many media outlets wanted to get the first piece of news about her. Of course, Wan Xin had been in this circle for a long time. She would not casually accept an interview from any media outlet. She would only say a few words if it was a media outlet that stood on her side. This way, the meaning of I am a victim was vividly portrayed. In addition, she was a permanent guest host of a variety show, so she had the opportunity to appear in front of the camera. As soon as Wan Xin arrived at the filming location, she was surrounded by the media. Miss Wan, can you talk to us about who tried to frame your husband? We are not afraid of trouble. We just want to let the people know the truth. Wan Xin lowered her eyes. Her face was painted with sickly makeup. I didn't tell you because I was worried that you would be threatened. At least I'm fine now. Goddess. There were a few fans following behind Wan Xin's nanny van. They covered their mouths and cried. Wan Xin nodded at them and passed through the cameras with a mask on. No one saw the smile on her face under the mask. Things went smoother than she had imagined, and it unexpectedly brought her a lot of attention. She had a premonition that this time, she would definitely appear more often. This could not be better. Chapter 1162. When Wan Xin saw that the plan was going well, she was naturally in an indescribable mood. After entering the special dressing room, the smile on her face could no longer be hidden. She sat in front of the dressing mirror and looked at the person in the mirror. Just as she was considering whether she should ask the makeup artist to make her face paler, she heard a few assistants whispering about something. Have you heard? This time, The mystery guest has suddenly changed. Someone changed. Who changed? Although Ruan Xin was putting on makeup, she was also paying attention to the news from the outside world. After all, this recording was very important to her. She would not appear in front of the public for nearly a month in order to let everyone feel the same way. A certain person with a background had really dealt a huge blow to the Yang family. Therefore, the topic of this recording had to be hot enough. If the original mystery guest was suddenly changed, if the status was not high enough, the attention would also decrease. This was really not good news for her. A few assistants were still discussing softly. I heard that it's young master. Young master? That's right, it's our young master with a brother complex. I'm going crazy. Why would young master participate in a variety show? Isn't he filming a movie in England? Anyway, he's back. I saw it all. Young master's face doesn't need makeup at all. It has its own beautifying effect. He's my favorite. This episode will definitely be good. I must get an autograph. Ruan Xin was also very surprised when she heard the word young master. One had to know that although the other party was young, he had already become an international superstar who was popular both at home and abroad after debuting for 5 years. Putting aside his looks, just his family background alone was enough to crush many people. However, he did not rely on his family background to enter this industry, but his own ability and influence. The relevant websites had done specific statistics. Any one of Bailey Shangxie's Weibo posts could be trending in minutes. This was not something that all celebrities could do. What was even more shocking was that a boy like him would definitely have more fans of his age. However, after the investigation, they found that it was no exaggeration to say that from aunts in their 40s to children of a few years old, there was no one who disliked Bailey Shangxie. Moreover, these people were formed by a rather rational hardcore fan group. The aunties in the fan group were all generous tycoons, not for anything else, but because of the young master's brother control. On the other hand, their show's viewership ratings in China were not low, but it was not so easy to invite Bailey Shangxie to take charge of the show. This was simply a good thing that fell from the sky. Ruan Xin was overjoyed. She felt that even the heavens were taking care of her. She was still worried that there wouldn't be enough topics to talk about when Bailey Shangxie came to participate in the show. It was as if he was helping her. Ruan Xin believed that as long as this episode was done well and the pressure of public opinion continued to increase, her old Yang would definitely not be investigated again. After all, the other party did not have any evidence and would not investigate to the end over such a small matter. After all, the people on the internet had already started to dig up information about the other party for her. No matter how powerful the Bai family was, they couldn't be more powerful than all the netizens. Therefore, sometimes, the identity of a celebrity was very beneficial. Ruan Xin sat up straight with a faint smile and asked the makeup artist to add some foundation for her. Her lip gloss was slightly white, which made it obvious that she had a lot on her mind. 2 people from the production team came over to comfort her. Ruan Xin shook her head to indicate that she was fine and even considerately told them not to worry. Although there was a filming location, it was not indoors. Right now, the most popular thing in the country was outdoor variety shows. Under normal circumstances, the permanent guests would be asked to do some tasks. The permanent guests in the show all had their own persona. Other than their persona, they could completely rely on themselves to act on the spot. However, everyone in the industry understood that the so-called outdoor variety show also had a script. However, this time, even the director was somewhat excited. He did not expect Bailey Shangxie to come at all. Many of the headlines had to be rewritten, but none of this mattered. Only with surprises would there be viewership ratings, not to mention that they were live streaming. The director had a feeling that this time, their station would definitely break the previous ratings legend. As soon as the news of Bailey Shangxie's participation was leaked, there was an overwhelming amount of waiting for the live broadcast. After the director arranged for each of the permanent guests to be in their position, he let them wear the special costumes for this episode and then told them when they should appear. The slogans for this episode had also changed, from real and fake spies to blood-sucking superstars. Ruan Xin stood in her seat. Just as she had thought before, this time, she got more than just a little more screen time than before. Even the standing position and lines had been arranged by the director. She watched as the permanent guests entered one by one in a funny or handsome way. Ruanshin smiled and said, "Now it's our mystery guests' turn to appear. Who will they be?" At this moment, no one was willing to look away from the screen. Baizhun was preparing for the live broadcast later. Master Li turned on the television. He had to pay attention to Ruanshin's movements at all times. Little Ajiu was wearing a set of little tiger pajamas. She walked back and forth and even squatted down to look under the bed. "Ajiu, what are you looking for?" Xiao Lin pulled the child up. Little Ajiu pointed at the top of her head. "Little White is gone." Li Hailu was also surprised. That cat was always with Ajiu 24 hours a day. How could it disappear? Speaking of which, that cat was quite strong. How could it lie on little Ajiu's head without being shaken by anything? Could it have run into the yard? Master Li opened the window and looked outside. Little Ajiu shook her head and said like a little adult, "Little White won't run around. It's not you." Little White is very obedient. Master Li was speechless. "I just made a deduction, but you attacked me personally. You can't play like this. Something must have happened." Little Ajiu touched her little chin as if she was confirming her words. She nodded her head in a dignified manner, and the tiger's tail wagged along with her. Baizhun knew how to raise a child. Even if he was going to do a live broadcast, he did not forget to apply medicine for little Ajiu. Baizhun sat there and hugged the child. He held a cotton swab in one hand and dipped it in the medicine beside him. His slender fingers held the cotton swab and applied it on little Ajiu's face. In fact, it was much easier for Baizhun to gain sympathy than Ruanshin because once such a young child was exposed, it would be obvious who was bullying who. But the reason why people were different was because everyone had different bottom lines. First of all, Baizhun would not try to gain anyone's sympathy. Second of all, he would not expose any information about little Ajiu, let alone let her show her face. He would only uproot people. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,